Chapter 301 Pity the Hearts of Parents in the World. Cao Song was a little stunned when he listened to Dao Qian's words. He felt that he had a problem with his ears. Dao Qian's words were clearly saying that he wanted to find a next home for Zuzhu, and his son Cao Cao was good in his opinion, hoping that Cao Cao would become the governor of Zuzhu and treat the people better, and take care of his two sons by the way. Cao Song's current feeling is that his eldest son is destined to belong. Just like Guangwu back then, people have not come to Zuzhu to offer the territory, and it is also one of the most important grain-producing places in the world today, and he still needs to take care of his son. Don't let his Dao family break the incense. I will not drop the pie in this sky, but the gold mountain. Holding most of Yangzhou, Yuzhou, Yingchuan, Nanyang, and Zuzhu, these territories add up to integrate a little bit of his Cao family, which is about to rise. When the family developed to the point where there was no development, 9 out of 10 would focus on the only position. The Cao family originally did not have that qualification, but when Cao Cao held a state, Cao Song had some ideas, and now Dao Qian hinted that he would give Zuzhu to Cao Cao. Cao Song did not have some ideas about the supreme position, but felt that he could really pursue it. How dare you do this? Of course, Cao Song did not dare to respond at this time, although he could feel Dao Qian's sincerity. But even if the other party was sincere, you couldn't be impatient. This kind of thing had to be slowed down in order to complete the handover stably. Otherwise it would be funny to get power directly from Dao Qian, and his subordinates were all reversed. Wouldn't it be funny? Brother Zhugao, don't worry. I, Dao Gongzu, deeply feel that I am old and weak, and I lack energy to exercise the power of the governor for a long time, even if Brother Zhugao does not help recommend a virtuous person at that time. I also had a hard time supporting it. Saying that, Dao Qian coughed twice, and a touch of blood appeared on his face. Gongzu, and rest assured. At that time, I will join hands with you to promote the virtuous to ensure the health of Zuzhu and the comfort of the Dao family. Cao Song did not agree to come immediately, and some things could be delayed to obtain greater benefits, although the benefits were already very great now. Dao Qian heard Cao Song's assurance, and sighed, Cao Bao, bring my two sons to meet Brother Zhugao. Soon Dao Qian's two sons were brought over by Cao Bao. Saluted to Cao Song, one was carefree and the other was cowardly. Nephew has seen Uncle Cao. Dao Qian waved his hand to signal Cao Bao to take his two sons out, and said to Cao Song with a wry smile, Brother Zhugao is laughing, my two sons really can't get on the stage. Otherwise, I don't want to. Now that I am old, I have to find a way out for my son. Brother Zhugao, for the sake of our acquaintance, there will be a chance to support one or two more, and don't let the dog live on the street. How can it be like this? Cao Song said righteously, just by that uncle, with my Cao Zhugao for a day, how can my two nephews endure hardships, not to mention that my eldest son is a benevolent and filial person. On the day I go, I will tell him to treat his two nephews well, and he must be like brothers. Cao Song was also cruel. Even the oath was spoken. After all, this was related to his Cao family's hegemony for generations. As long as he could take Zuzhu and contribute to the rise of the Cao family, Cao Song felt that it was worth doing so. Then thank you, Brother Zhugao, I am here to thank you. Dao Qian pulled away and bowed to Cao Song. The father did this step for his son to the limit. After all, as Dao Qian, there was no need to give this gift to anyone at all now. Cao Song was stunned. Gongzu, please get up quickly, don't do this. Don't do this. Cao Song quickly got up and pulled Dao Qian up, although the two themselves were kneeling and drinking. But Dao Qian's gift completely shocked Cao Song. If there was still a little doubt before, then now he has completely believed in Dao Qian's sincerity, and he really did such a step for his son. Pity the hearts of parents in the world. Cao Song held Dao Qian's arms with both hands, pulled Dao Qian up and said, Gongzu, I, Cao Zhugao, swear here that if my Cao family really takes over Zuzhu, then your son will be replaced by his own son, and your descendants, like the Cao family's clan. My Cao family has a bite to eat, and it will definitely not be less than your Dao family. Cao Song's words are very rustic, but this kind of rustic words are what an old father needs. What he wants is Cao Song's oath. Only Cao Song swears to be kind to his descendants. Dao Qian will hand over the biggest chip in his hand. Brother Zhugao laughed. Dao Qian wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes with his sleeve, the hard work of his youth, and in the end Dao Qian found that everything was just for his descendants, and after seeing that his two sons could only eat, drink and have fun, Dao Qian completely gave up the hegemony and turned to look for potential stocks that could become his son's backer. Alas, it's all for the sake of future generations, and Gongzu understands what he thinks and worries at my age. Cao Song sighed and said, Isn't our life's work just for future generations to suffer less? When I am old, I see that my children and grandchildren are unfilial, although I am heartbroken, but I have to plan for them. Dao Qian nodded sadly. Brother Zhugao, let's get drunk and drink 1,000 sorrows. Dao Qian was sure to choose a backer for his sons, and pulled Cao Song to fight for wine frantically without worry. Since his energy declined and his body began to fail, he hadn't drunk so unscrupulously for a long time, and for the sake of his children and grandchildren, he even gave up his last hobby, and now he finally found a way out for his son, and he could drink without scruples, even if he died. Someone would take care of his son instead of him. Cow Song is because Zuzhu has been basically income. Their cow family is prosperous, and future generations may enjoy endless glory, wealth, and ecstasy, and someone will naturally share it with him. Naturally, the two old people who planned for future generations were drunk and knew that they woke up early the next morning. Brother Jugao has gone all the way. I'm waiting for you to come again. Dao Qian stood at the city gate and bowed to Cow Song and said, Ha ha ha, Gongzu, say goodbye. I will come, even if I can't come, my eldest son will come in my place. Gongzu, don't worry. Cow Song laughed and said, but he didn't know that as soon as these words came out, they became prophesies. When the time comes, the two of us will have a drink and have a good time, and Cao Bao will send Brother Jugao for me. Dao Qian looked at Cao Song's winding convoy and said to his general Cao Bao, Hey! Cao Bao left with his generals and more than 1,000 people to protect Cao Song, and did not slowly retreat until Cao Bao left his general Zhong Kai and 500 soldiers 30 miles away. Thank you, General Cao, for sending me off. Cao Song sat on the horse and saluted Cao Bao. Zhong Kai, remember to protect Cao Gong for me. Cao Bao told loudly. The road after that is protected by the general all the way. Cao Song smiled at Zhong Kai and said, In the future, please ask Cao Gong to mention more. Zhong Kai clenched his fists and said, Chapter 302 Idealism and Realism. Cao Song had no idea that he had embarked on the road of no return to the west, and his son had no hope of taking over Zuzhu in the short term. At the same time, Liu Bei's side also began a formal sacrifice, and under the leadership of Liu Bei, he entered from the east gate towards the Jingling Hall. This time, the people of Taishan changed their original casualness, all dressed in black linen clothes outside, and followed Liu Bei slowly towards the Jingling Hall. Naturally Li Yu was among them. Zhu Shou looked at Li Yu among the group of people who followed Liu Bei, and was incompatible with several others, and immediately felt a lot relieved. Li Yu really did not belong to the Taishan government system, so I was relieved, and the next things could be put on the plan. Zhu Shou thought silently. This time Chen Shi and others did not pay attention to Zhu Shou, because this time the sacrifice is very important. Liu Bei's performance will give Zhu Shou a shock. After all, he is a self-made overlord. The charm of personality is very important. Chen Shi and others are thinking about what Liu Bei will say and what promises he will make when the time comes. This is the overlord of the Central Plains. If there is no shocking side, how can he gather people's hearts? How can he convince many heroes? Zhu Shou watched Liu Bei walk slowly towards the altar in front of the Jingling Hall, and the momentum on his body became more and more magnificent, compared with Liu Xuande, who wanted a beautiful woman but was embarrassed to open his mouth the day before yesterday. Liu Bei at this moment was in line with the image of the overlord in the mind of raising his hand. Burn incense. Zhuo Xi watched Liu Bei step in from the main door and said to his disciples, after the 3 sacrifices were arranged, Zhuo Xi handed the incense to Liu Bei. Please offer incense to Duke Xuande. Liu Bei put the incense in the incense burner with a calm expression. Looking at the tall memorial monument, he slowly got up, and then the civil and military officials followed closely together to insert the burning incense into the incense burner. Silence and silence. Armored soldiers inserted incense into the incense burner outside the altar. In such an atmosphere, even the originally indifferent Zhu Shou was affected by the environment, and his face became solemn, and Zhuge Liang and others, who were watching the ceremony from a distance, also stared at the pitch-black wordless giant Steely, and even Sima Yi, who was dismissive of the sacrifice, withdrew his words and silently stared at the giant Steely. Today, the world is in chaos, and the Han court is declining. I, Liu Xuande, am willing to guard one side for the Han dynasty and ensure the safety of the Han dynasty. Weapons are tools for development and defense. The cornerstone of the country. The stability of the Han dynasty and the prosperity of the family and country are all guarded by you, and the world is peaceful. The prosperity of the people. It's all up to you to fight. After Liu Bei finished speaking, he bowed in the direction of the huge wordless Steely, turned around and bowed to all the soldiers under the altar. Wow! At the moment when Liu Bei bowed, all the soldiers knelt down. What I, Liu Xuande, said, counts. The dead enjoy their glory, the living benefit from it. Those who dare to deduct the interests of the living will die, and those who dare to exploit the glory of the dead will die. At this time of year, as long as I am alive, I will sacrifice, and if I am not here, I will also sacrifice. A good man who shed the last drop of blood for the Han family. I will never allow their living family members to be bullied. Today's words are shared by heaven, earth, man, and God. Liu Bei said calmly, No matter how difficult it was, he would overcome it. May I have a house under my rule? There is medicine for the sick, diligence and work, hard work and gain, teaching for the young, and relying on the old. I, Liu Xuande, am willing to fight endlessly for this. Liu Bei roared loudly. From today onwards, all school-age children in my Taishan Qingju can go to school, and I, Liu Xuande, would like to thank the Jizhouzhen family and Zuzumi family for providing me with the money and food needed for Qingju. Lord Rend. The chaotic roar under the field finally became such a sentence. All the soldiers had already seen the latest benefits. What they were most afraid of was that these benefits were empty at the beginning, and just today Liu Bei stood on the altar and swore to the gods of heaven, earth, man, and God, and did what he said. Ju Shou stood in the altar management office and looked at Liu Bei standing on it. A shock psychology emerged. Liu Bei did have the problem of being born at the bottom, but he did have the qualifications to create a hegemony. The shouts, roars, cheers, people's hearts, and military spirits in his ears. This is Liu Bei's confidence. Kong Ming, are you sure you want to stay in Mount Tai? Zhuge Jin looked at Zhuge Liang's firm eyes and asked, although he already knew the answer. I want to stay here. His dream is very similar to my ideals. We have too many similarities. The old have something to rely on, the young have something to teach. The age of the saint has always been delusional. I am willing to believe that he can create it. Zhuge Liang said firmly, tell my uncle that I will not go to Jingju. Instead of waiting for the Lord of Destiny to come like a hermit, I prefer to believe in Liu Xuande in front of me. What do you think? Sima Lang grabbed the window frame with his right hand, and his white knuckles were enough to show his current shock. The world cannot be conquered by benevolence. There must be darkness under the light, and Liu Xuande's road will not work. Sima Yi looked at Liu Bei, and there was actually a hint of heartbeat under his seemingly calm face, such brilliance, warmth, like fire, calling him to run to Liu Bei's flame like a moth. Zhongda, what's wrong with you? Sima Lang watched Sima Yi slowly walk outside, and asked puzzled. I'm leaving Mount Tai. Liu Xuande's road doesn't work, but that kind of brilliance washes away the dark corners. I don't want to give my life for an ideal that doesn't work, and then continue. I'm afraid that I will also be obsessed with fantasy. The young are taught, the old have something to rely on. The saint rules the world just like this, but Liu Xuande is not a saint. Sima Yi finally glanced back at Liu Bei standing at the top of the altar, and walked directly downstairs without looking back. Xuande Gong, you're indeed qualified to let me call you a duke. Your brilliance is enough to make everyone in the world dazzling. But unfortunately, since Yin Shong to the present 2,000 years, how many virtuous people have struggled for it and can't do it in the end? Can you escape? Wang Mang also had the same feelings as you. Let the cultivators have their fields, let the old people have something to rely on, and let the young children have something to teach. But in the end they can never turn over. Shen Degong, my reason cannot accept this already mortal ending, and what I want to wait for is not this pure brilliance. Sima Yi walked down the restaurant silently, poured a glass of wine fiercely, and his eyes flashed with cold light. Only darkness can set off the light. Since the light will be defeated, then leave honor for it. Liu Xuande don't want to disappoint me. If you can't keep today's words, then in the end there will be only a similar infamy to Wang Mang in history. Sima Yi said to himself, and then walked alone towards the door. Zhongda, where are you going? Sima Lang walked down the second floor and looked at Sima Yi, who had already stepped out, and said, go to my teacher. I want to study for a while, and then find a wise master. Find a master who can achieve great things. Liu Xuande's approach will not work. Sima Yi walked towards Fenggao without looking back. Chapter 303 The Family. After that, the cheers of the people and the shouts of the soldiers told Ju Shou one thing. That is, Liu Bei really won the hearts of the people in Mount Tai, and this was a serious threat to Yuan Shao's hegemony. Zhuandegang is really playing. Zizhong pays for it. I can't stand it. Chen Shi turned his head to Mi Zhu and said, just a few $100 million. I have lost my family. Mi Zhu was grateful when he heard Liu Bei's sentence in front of everyone. Thank you here for the money and food support of the Zhen family and the Mi family. What a family needs most at the beginning of its establishment is fame, and how much prestige can be gained by paying a small amount of money to support education. Scholars are the most precious group of people in the world, and scholars are also the most cherished feathers in this world. The Mi family only needs to pay for 5 years. The first generation of students come out. Even if the Mi family starts as a businessman, no one will look at the Mi family with contempt, because once the Mi family is hacked, there will be countless students to stand up to defend the Mi family. It doesn't matter whether the businessman is a businessman or not. The important thing is benevolence and righteousness. However, thinking that there was another Zhen family in front of him, Mi Zhu was a little entangled in whether his own money was a little less, not as much as the Zhen family. Why did the Zhen family appear in everything, make rules, the Chamber of Commerce, and now spend money on education? How can the Zhen family also intervene? Because of this, when Chen Shi asked Mi Zhu with a smile, Mizhu patted his chest without saying a word and promised that he would have no problem taking care of the entire academy in Taishan in Qingju alone. How much reputation he had to brush. Chen Shi was stunned for a moment, and then smiled. Zizhong has some things to eat alone is not a good thing. The Chen family incident led to the tragedy of the world's businessman, and today the wealthy businessman may be accused of plotting misdeeds if he does a little kindness. If you don't do it, you are unkind for the rich, and Zizhong should understand the hardships in it. Mizhu was stunned, and his shirt was soaked with cold sweat in an instant. He just saw that the day when the Mi family achieved the family was in sight, but he didn't think about the danger behind it. There was a reason why merchants were rejected from top to bottom in this era, and merchants were not excluded during the spring and autumn period, and the real beginning of cleaning up merchants began in the Warring States period, and various decrees restricting merchants also began at that time. The reason is that the Chen family ancestor played too much, making all the businessmen stupid and fighting. Xiao Dojin, after several generations, bought the hearts of the people of Qi, and then bought the state of Qi. This was a reasonable, legal and reasonable transaction, and in the end, King of Ju could only pinch his nose and admit that he was the Marquis of Qi. Since this incident, businessmen have been unlucky, as long as all wealthy businessmen are targeted. From time to time, cut a stubble like a grass mower. Because no matter which country hates this kind of thing. In short, from then on, merchants in the feudal era who did good deeds without notification would basically be beaten for misdeeds. Because of this, many records in the countryside were broken, and the bridge was broken to find merchants, and the government said that let so-and-so merchants pay for repairs, not to blackmail merchants, but purely to give merchants a face. Of course, there are indeed blackmails. But being able to let you cultivate is actually giving you face. Thank you, Zichuan. Mizhu bowed and bowed. No, for Xuanda Gong's foundation. Your money is still very important, and you will be fine with the Zhen family standing in your way. Chen Shi said indifferently. He dared to let Liu Bei say this, so he was not afraid that Zhu Shou would be dissatisfied with the Zhen family when he heard it, because Zhu Shou had already figured out how the last thing happened, and the Zhen family paid 2 billion yuan to buy peace. As for why other families would believe that the Zhen family paid 2 billion instead of making peace with Qingju, the main reason is that the Luo Shui Commercial Bank, which is second only to the 5 wealthy merchants, directly broke out that it belonged to the Zhen family's property, and this commercial bank, which often provides large loans and discounts, has 2 billion yuan in reserve funds is an inevitable thing. Well, this is Zhen Mi's dowry. Zhu Shou also knew this, so he didn't think that the Zhen family and Liu Bei would make peace. As for the current Zhen family appeared in Fenggao, I didn't see all the merchants in the world appear in Fenggao, for businessmen, as long as they can make money, let alone no dead grudge. Even if there is a dead grudge, the interest can be suppressed enough. But Zhu Shou doesn't think that there is any kind of interest that can suppress what he did to Qingju before. That is not a little money. I'm also a little anxious. Mizhu smiled bitterly and said, Zichuan may not understand my thoughts. The glory of the family, the hope of shining lintels, and the blessings of future generations are worth fighting for a lifetime. Chen Shi said without looking back. Zichuan, you really know everything. Mizhu pulled his mouth and said, in his opinion, Chen Shi, who was born in a family, should not notice this ordinary life he has been enjoying. Don't worry, Zizhong, the money you spend will not be lost, just the 2 sentences that the Lord just said. In the future, your family will sell things in the Qingju area of Taishan, and others will sell the same thing as you. Even if your price is a little higher, the people of Taishan will recognize your things, and when the matter of supporting education spreads, your shop's business will be more prosperous. Chen Shi glanced at Mizhu, then turned his head and said indifferently, What? In this era without advertising, Mizhu, who relies on the aroma of wine to survive in the depths of the alley, does not understand the importance of spreading the word. That is to say, don't you envy Zilong for someone to give you something when he walks? You will do it in the future, as long as they know you are Mi Zizhong. Chen Shi didn't turn his head anymore, just stared at Liu Bei and said silently, General Zhao, that's really a great pleasure in life. Mizhu obviously said with some envy, anyone who sees Zhao Yun walking on the road has beautiful women in his arms at any time. No one collects money for buying things, and others have to force. It is probably this feeling. The people of this era are still very simple. You will too. Zilong gave them the soil to survive. You gave them hope for development. I will burn something for you in 2 days. You stick it on your family, and the business will get better. Chen Shi smiled and said, Thank you, thank you. Mizhu bowed and said. Zhuge Jin looked at Fei Zhang, who was standing in the first sequence under Liu Bei. That young man is probably a little younger than me, and now he is in the position of Prime Minister of Qi, and Taishan is really a hero regardless of age. Fa Xiaoji. Zhuge Liang silently pronounced the name. Chen Zichuan is only the same age as me. He is indeed a genius. Kongming, there is no hope of surpassing him as a brother, and my Zhuge family relies on you as the pillar. Zhuge Jinlang said with a smile, Kongming, let me ask you one last time, are you really not going back to Zuzhu? I plan to visit Chen Zichuan. I don't plan to go back to Zuzhu. If your uncle asks, please tell your uncle that Kongming has found someone who is like-minded with him, and he doesn't want to wait for the so-called opportunity anymore. Zhuge Liang said without deflecting his head, however, big brother, you really don't stay here with Xuandagong, his dream contains your ideals. Kongming, we are a family, you choose freedom, then someone must be responsible. If both of us chase our own freedom, then who should carry the Zhuge family? The Zhuge family has been in decline for too long, and it is possible that our generation will rise again. The family will not allow the best of us to enter a force, they have invested too much for us, and the family has the rules of the family. Zhuge Jin patted Zhuge Liang on the shoulder and said, Thank you. Zhuge Liang looked at his brother Zhuge Jin and said, The next time we meet, don't abandon the public for personal reasons. We are the Zhuge family. Zhuge Jin said calmly, and glanced back at Liu Bei, he will be a good lord, but it's a pity that he is not suitable for me, not suitable for me. Zhuge Jin slowly packed up his things, leaving Zhuge Liang here alone, and he would bear the blame of the Zhuge family alone. Chapter 304 When Sima Lang met Shi Jizai. In the continuous cheers of the people of Fengao, Sima Yi and Sima Lang left Fengao, and only Sima Yi left alone, but Sima Lang was not worried that Sima Yi would travel alone, so he left with him, out of the city gate, aimlessly, and marched in one direction at will. Before he had walked much, Sima Yi heard a familiar shout from outside the carriage, and was slightly startled. Big brother, stop the carriage, my teacher is here. Your teacher? Hu Gong? Sima Lang was stunned, and quickly stopped the carriage, and soon saw a Confucian scholar riding a horse rushing over. Student Sima Boda has seen Hu Gong. Seeing Hu Jiao coming, Sima Yi had not yet saluted, but Sima Lang bowed to Hu Jiao first, and then glared at his younger brother, watching Sima Yi stare at Hu Jiao. No, Zhongda is good, much better than the previous arrogance. Hu Jiao said happily, Isn't it strange that I am also in Mount Tai? When Chen Zichuan swept Yuzhou, your teacher and I were a guest in Runan, but I was packaged and sent to Fengao. Hu Jiao didn't care whether Sima Yi listened or not, and said to himself, at that time, your teacher was called a depressed person, and he was also a generation of great Confucianism, so he was tied up like this, but after arriving at Fengao, I found that this place was good, much better than the small slope mountain I used to stay in. You came to Fengao by yourself, and you deliberately took Chen Zichuan's ride to save trouble. Sima Yi said speechlessly, how could he suffer with his teacher's shrewdness? I can't say that, it was really dangerous at the time. But TSK, I have been here in Fengao for a few months, and I have to admit that Liu Xuanda is a good kid, not to mention anything else. Courage and virtue are very good. How about following the teacher to vote for Liu Xuanda? Hu Jiao looked up to the sky and laughed, but a person who was only about the same age as Liu Bei called Liu Bei a kid and actually had no sense of peacekeeping. Kongming, let me ask you as a friend, is Liu Xuanda suitable for me? Sima Yi looked at Hu Jiao and said calmly, not suitable. Hu Jiao vetoed what he had just said. Then why do you recommend me to go? I was moved by Liu Xuanda's ideals. Just by successfully educating Luhun Mountain, I am already so complacent. He is the hero of the entire world. Hu Jiao restrained his usual hippie smile and said. There was obviously a hint of emotion in his eyes. In that case, why did the teacher leave? Sima Yi bowed to Hu Jiao flatly, and then asked. Because you can't do it, I pass on everything you have learned because you are the same reality as me, and if you can't do it, you can't do it. We don't ask for extravagance. We will only try our best to do what we can, and sometimes dreams that are too big will drag us down, especially in these troubled times. Hu Jiao said solemnly. Boda, you can leave alone, I will take Zhongda to travel the world, his current mentality is enough to inherit my mantle. After Hu Jiao finished speaking, he glared at Sima Lang and said, although Sima Lang is Sima Yi's brother, and he respects Hu Jiao very much. But Hu Jiao has always been honest with him. Zhongda, don't cause trouble for Hu Gong in the future. Sima Lang didn't say much. He turned around and told his younger brother to drive away directly, leaving the carriage to Hu Jiao's master and apprentice. After Sima Lang left, Sima Yi followed Hu Jiao and sat on the ground casually. Teacher, I have awakened my spiritual talent. Oh, as expected of Zhongda. Hu Jiao said plainly, in fact, he was extremely satisfied, and he only woke up at the age of 17 or 18. I met a young man who is the same as you, who is also spiritually talented at the age of 12, and has the same level of spiritual capacity as my brother, and there are indeed geniuses in this world. Sima Yi said to Hu Jiao in an unfluctuating tone. The world is so big that there is nothing strange, and it is normal to have one or two freaks. Hu Jiao was silent for a long time and then said, "Sure enough, I still have too little experience. Go to Zhongda, the teacher will take you to see the world in 1 to 3 years, teach you the last thing, and the road after that will depend on you." Seeing Hu Jiao casually slapping his Confucian robe, Sima Yi also got up and patted the carriage casually, and found a direction to start marching. "Zhuge Liang, we will see you again. You will probably stay in Fengyao. It seems that God is destined that we will face each other again sooner or later, and I will never be as defeated as before." Sima Yi sat in the carriage, and Zhuge Liang's peaceful temperament appeared in his mind. On the other side, Sima Lang traveled only 50 miles west when he encountered 2 carriages, looking at the crowd of hundreds of soldiers, and the strong man who was leading the horse. Although he did not show the banner, Sima Lang had already guessed whose team this was. However, before Sima Lang could avoid it, he heard a voice from the carriage behind him. "Boda, long time no see. Evil comes to stop. Stop." Chen Kun shouted in the direction of Jian Wei, and soon the entire team stopped. "Yo, long time no see. I'm here to celebrate my brother's wedding. By the way, you guys not authentic. If I hadn't gone to the head of the Fan family to confirm that I didn't know that Chen Zichuan was also a member of the Chen family, I would have left my family heirloom jade pendant as a congratulatory gift when I left." After Sima Lang dismounted, he greeted Chen Kun with a smile, and then began to complain to Chen Kun, and he knew at a glance that the two were very familiar. "It's hard to say." Chen Kun smiled bitterly and said, "Boda is my master Cao Gong's military strategist Shizhong Shijitsai. Your Excellency is the drama talent who defeated Yuan Shu in Pingyanzhu and Nanyang? Sima Lang of Hanoi has seen the military strategist of the opera." Sima Lang looked up and down at his thin figure, and the slightly sick Shizhong clenched his fists and saluted. "You don't have to be polite, since you are a friend of Chang, you can call each other a table with me." Shijitsai touched his beard and said tremblingly. Chen Kun was obviously stunned. Most of the time Shijitsai, who was not pretending to be a good person, would actually give himself such a face. Is there any secret? Chen Kun glanced at Shijitsai a little strangely, but he didn't stop Sima Lang. He also wanted to see what mystery Shijitsai was playing. Shijitsai no longer plans to let Sima Lang go, a character with spiritual talent, although I don't know what kind of spiritual talent it is, but those who can have spiritual talent are wise men. Shijitsai's words made Sima Lang deeply favored, and his friend Chen Kun was deceived into the carriage by Shijitsai not long after, and the group began to march towards Fengyao City. Chapter 305 History always needs pioneers. Moreover, after Shijitsai fell into a coma that day, Chen Kun was so frightened that he hurriedly ordered someone to report to Cao Cao, but Shijitsai only ran out of mental strength, although he was injured, but he was still alive and lay down for a night before waking up. But at that time Cao Cao's personal guard General Jian Wei had already rushed over with Cao Cao's letter. "Evil, you don't protect the Lord. What are you doing here?" Not long after Shiji woke up, Jian Wei appeared in front of Shijitsai. "The Lord asks the military division to return to Chen Liu," Jian Wei said angrily. "Chen Liu doesn't need to go back. Let's talk about other news from the Lord." Shijitsai shook his head and said, with his understanding of Cao Cao must know that he had a reason to go. "The Lord said that if the military division is unwilling to go back, let me accompany him to protect him." Jian Wei scratched his head and said a little honestly. Shijitsai sighed. He knew that in Cao Cao's opinion, he must have done something very dangerous this time, and it must be for the sake of the Cao family's foundation. Cao Cao didn't ask Zun Yu what they were doing here. He trusted Shijitsai very much, and it was precisely because he trusted him that he was unwilling to let Shijitsai have any accidents. And now that he has not yet arrived at Mount Tai, Shijitsai has obviously been hit hard, which makes Cao Cao unconsciously think that this trip is very dangerous. "I'm still too weak, otherwise I wouldn't need to be like this." Cao Cao saw Chen Kun's letter and thought silently, and then arranged for Jian Wei to protect Shijitsai. The strongest of his subordinates was Jian Wei's, and he believed that he did not need to make special arrangements. As long as Jian Wei went, he would protect his rebellion. At this point, the team became Jian Wei, and Chen Kun resolutely refused to take a carriage with Shijitsai after experiencing the last incident. So the whole team became what it is now. But in Jian Wei's view, Shijitsai's illness has not healed, so he took care of it and marched too slowly all the way. This made Shijitsai not see Sima Yi, who pitied him half dead. Shijitsai has already obtained Sima Lang's talent, although the official effect has not been determined online, but it is clear that Sima Lang is not the civil servant who pitied him half to death. So when he got into the carriage, Shijitsai enthusiastically drank and chatted with Sima Lang, and under the special flattery of Shijitsai, who was in a high position, Sima Lang soon fell. Cao Cao is also good, how to say it, he is also a hero who defeated Yuan Shu and occupied a state. Chen Kun himself hoped that Sima Lang would join Cao Cao, so after Shijitsai issued an invitation, Chen Kun also worked hard to win over Sima Lang. After all, the closer ones were brothers with the same bloodline, and after 3 or 2 strokes, Sima Lang should go down to see Cao Cao. In fact, in Sima Lang's own opinion, the one he liked the most was Cao Cao. Compared with Liu Bei's somewhat pedantic personality, Cao Cao's kind of omnidirection is more suitable for him, and sometimes some behaviors do not have to worry about the monarch's taboo even if they exceed the moral boundary. After all, the family always has a dark side. Sima Lang also talked about what he had seen and heard in Fengao in recent times, and focused on the military and people's hearts under Liu Bei's rule, the elite of his soldiers, the prosperity of Fengao, and the variety of books in the library. Maybe before coming to Mount Tai, Shi Jizai felt that his side was almost the same as Liu Bei's side, but since entering Mount Tai, the difference that Shi Jizai can clearly feel is that Taishan is richer than Cao Cao, much richer, and the road is much better. From time to time, a group of people will carry tools and shout to find the infrastructure construction team to do some work. After entering Mount Tai, Shi Jizai did not see the situation of selling children and daughters in Yangzhou from time to time every winter, not to mention anything else in Mount Tai winter. It is easy to eat a meal. The infrastructure construction team has been recruiting. As long as you are willing to contribute, there is no problem in eating enough. As for what Sima Lang said later, Liu Bei was running education and planned to teach literacy to school-age children, which made Shi Jizai can't help but be stunned. Coming from a humble background, he knew very well what this meant to the people at the bottom, but soon he suppressed the tremors in his heart. Silently looked at Sima Lang and said, "Manpower is sometimes poor. Yes. That is a dream that cannot be realized at all." Sima Lang slowly closed his eyes and said, "But don't say it's the people. Even if we hear such a grand wish, we will have a touch of reverence for Liu Xuande, and no one has really shouted this sentence in the era of the saints." Chen Kun didn't speak. Liu Bei's grand wish made him also very shocked. Who can be ruthless without grass and trees? Chen Kun also had a similar dream. This approximate feeling made Chen Kun can't help but think of his original ideal, the most ordinary ideal, to let the people of the world have enough to eat, but it is the most difficult to do. After all, that guy is not deeply involved in the world. Chen Kun sighed when he remembered Chen Shi, who had never met him. He was so naive back then. The world was not so easy to change, and he would mature after experiencing many things. The 3 of them looked at each other and smiled, thinking of their former selves. They couldn't help but sigh. Only after failure will they mature. Wasn't Cao Cao also passionate at the beginning? But in the end, he could only pick up the butcher's knife and use his strength to open up a path he thought was right. Originally, Liu Xuande was indomitable throughout his life and finally laid a foundation, but it was obvious that he gradually restrained his edge with repeated failures and gradually became smoother. At the beginning, he could ask for bribes because the postal inspector could not distinguish between green and red, and would rather give up his official position to whip the postal supervisor than let the postal inspector loot the people, and then became able to accept Liu Biyu, who he hated, and after borrowing Jingju, Liu Bei could already control his emotions very well, and then after entering Sichuan, he was completely invisible. Until Guan Yu's bad news and Zhong Fei's bad news, Liu Bei once again became the reckless young man who whipped the postal supervisor. However, no matter how it changes, Liu Bei has never swung a butcher's knife at the people. Whether it is benevolence or hypocrisy, Liu Bei did not carry out a massacre like Cao Cao and Sun Quan even when death was near, and he has always adhered to his beliefs. It's a pity that Liu Bei has not instilled his beliefs in the power of the people of the world from beginning to end, and in this life, the setbacks suffered by Liu Bei are simply drizzle for Liu Bei's indomitable mentality. It can be said that until now, it is still what he said at the beginning, scolding you if he doesn't like it, beating you if he can't do it, and admitting it if he is wrong. This time, the world did not teach Liu Bei to be tactful, but under the guidance of Chen Shi, Liu Bei had more ambitious ideals and the power to implement his beliefs. He firmly believed in Chen Shi's words, knowing that it is right, but not being able to complete it. Should we march in the wrong direction as ignorant until we are farther and farther away from the original road? No, even if there will be no results, I will point out the direction. History always needs pioneers. Chen Shi said to himself, and who knows if it is difficult or easy to do something that has never been done. Chapter 306 Shi Jizai's Thoughts. The reason is that when Shi Jizai entered Fengao, he opened his spiritual talent, and several spiritual talents directly appeared within the scope of Shi Jizai's spiritual talent. A lot of spiritual talent. Shi Jizai's eyes seemed to have passed through the barrier of the carriage. Looking at the unclear spiritual talent circulating in the sky, he once again felt a kind of helplessness like Zunyu after opening the talent. Obviously he could feel the existence of that spiritual talent, but there was a feeling that a tiger had nowhere to lay its claws, and it could not be replicated at all. If you guess correctly, as long as Gongda turns on the talent, he will be immune to the embarrassing spiritual talent that made me mess up before. Shi Jizai silently looked at Zhou Qian and was very helpless, thinking that what he was most worried about now was that the owner of the spiritual talent that was now circulating above Jiao Chen was the same as Zun Yu's bitch, and after turning on the talent, he would die for a long time and not turn it off, resulting in you can only stare at the spiritual talent, and even if you analyze it, there is no way to copy it. I hope it's not so sad. Shi Jitsai prayed silently, knowing that he originally didn't want to tell anyone about his spiritual talent, but after analyzing Zun Yu's spiritual talent, he felt that it was useful, but there was no way to copy it, and he endured it for 3 months and was stunned to see that Zun Yu had the talent to stop, and finally had no choice but to tell Zun Yu openly and honestly about his spiritual talent. From that time on, Shi Ji knew that there were some strange talents that were not easy to copy, but it seemed that as long as they were talents, he could copy them if he met the conditions. At most, the conditions are a little harsh. For example, Zun Yu's disguise talent, and the drama can only be copied when Zun Yu opens the talent. Only in the same way can Shi Ji detect Chen Shi's talent. In fact, it means that it can also be copied. As long as Chen Shi turns off his spiritual talent and then turns on Shi Jitsai again, he can seize the opportunity to copy. But unfortunately Chen Shi's talent is a passive talent, and the only chance for Shi Jitsai to copy is when Chen Shi awakens, and it is impossible after that, but because of this, he is spared from death. Of course, Shi Jitsai is still thinking about analyzing the spiritual talent above his head, and then copy it when the other party turns it on again. Resolution in cases like this where you can't even copy is very slow. Forget it, let's visit Liu Bei first. Maybe there are fish that slip through the net. I hope to meet a few more aspiring young people like Boda. Shi Jitsai retracted his gaze and stared calmly at the place where a bunch of spiritual talents gathered, but compared to the place where they gathered, he paid more attention to the 3 spiritual talents that were obviously not within the scope of the altar and did not join Liu Bei's wise men. That's his goal. It's not the right time for drama to come. He did not enjoy the treatment of Ju Shou, but a team of urban management sent him to the post station and told him that Liu Bei would receive them after the sacrifice was over, and Shi Jitsai had no dissatisfaction with this. Long article. Leave the next alliance between Boda and Mount Tai to me. Shi Jitsai smiled at the two of them as the leader. Okay, I also need to visit Chen Zichuan. Boda, do you want to go with me? After all, you gave the family heirloom jade pendant to the other party. Chen Kun said calmly. At this time, Chen Zichuan was not there. Presumably, Chang Wen just handed over a greeting post and came back, so he had to pull me up. It's really inauthentic. Sima Lang said without scruples. Okay, then you stay here, I'll go meet Chen Zichuan, and by the way, I have some things to explain. Chen Kun chuckled. People say that Mount Tai is prosperous, and this time you should also see it, and compare how many layers of Nanyang there are at the beginning. I'm afraid the long article will be surprised. Sima Lang said with a smile. Sima Lang had already visited Fenggao City a few days ago, and naturally knew that Fenggao was no longer a matter of Nanyang's prosperity. But how many places in Fenggao surpass Nanyang? With his eyesight, he naturally knew that many aspects of Fenggao were better than the original Nanyang. Clean and tidy, prosperous and rich. This is also Liu Bei dares to shout out the confidence to set up education. As long as every city can be as prosperous as Fenggao, it is not difficult to support education. But is it possible? Just like there is only one Chen Zichuan in the world, there is only one Fenggao city in the world. Opportunities, abilities, and luck are indispensable, and in Sima Lang's view, Fenggao is an irreplaceable miracle. Since it is a miracle, it means that it cannot be replicated, which means that Liu Bei has no way to truly popularize education, and many things are also doomed. Shi Jitsai rested for a while, and then took Jian Wei to invite the top civil servant who was obviously not Liu Bei's camp. First see who the other party was. The ownerless person must have been arrested by the pit, and the owner would see if he could dig it up. In short, Shi Jitsai had the idea of coming to Qingju to dig people from the beginning. I've seen you. Shi Jitsai saw Ju Shou again and wanted to turn his head and leave as soon as he saw it. Time should not be wasted on Ju Shou. He didn't want to be stopped by Ju Shou before he ran neatly, so he had to turn his head to Ju Shou with a helpless face. Jitsai has been around for a long time. Ju Shou smiled and poured a glass of wine for Shi Jitsai, glanced at the man behind Shi Jitsai, who was carrying 2 halberds with a circle around his waist and 2 halberds full of muscles. His eyes narrowed. Presumably, this is the undefeated general of Wanqing in the Battle of Lu Biyu, worthy of the name of ancient evil. Come, I will salute the general with a bowl. Saying that, Ju Shou stood up and picked up a bowl of wine and handed it to Jian Wei. Jian Wei laughed, handed over both halberds to his left hand, took the wine bowl with his right hand and drank it all in one gulp, then put the bowl down, scratched his head and said, "What is undefeated? That Lu Biyu is too fierce, I can't hit him at all when he flies up." Jian Wei said without any scruples. Ju Shou frowned slightly. Jian Wei was a very easy person to deal with. From these words Ju Shou heard a lot of things. Jian Wei was just because Lu Biyu flew up and couldn't beat it, not can't beat it. Ha ha. As expected of General Jian. Zhu Shou sighed. He had seen Liu Biyu's bravery. Yang Liangwen was ugly and could not withstand any of the 50 moves of the supermaster. But the man on the opposite side was actually able to remain undefeated. Do you have anything to gain from coming here? Xie Zhizai asked Jian Wei to sit down and asked with a smile. He didn't take Zhu Shou's careful thoughts to heart at all. The prosperity of Mount Tai is no less than that of Nanyang, and this Liu Xuanda will be the enemy of my lord. But now that the wings are not full, my lord has not been able to establish the north, and he cannot look south, otherwise he will not let it become bigger. Zhu Shou said bluntly, what's more, Mount Tai is the gateway to Zhuzhou, and it is difficult to have surplus food without Mount Tai. Xi Zhizai drank silently. He knew too well that Zhu Shou was saying that his lord Cao Cao was now completely over in the Central Plains, and the only one who fought with the four sides was Cao Cao, and even Liu Bei did not end the endless expansion of Qingzhou. Yuan Shu was busy moving his administrative office to Shouchuan, and he also had to deal with Liu Biao's counterattack, and Cao Cao should be glad that he didn't hit him. Liu Bei's Qingzhou pioneering war is endless because of the steady fighting. Many Qingzhou Yellow Turban Winters are eating in the Qingzhou Infrastructure Regiment, and Liu Bei will definitely attack Qingzhou in the spring of next year, and then he must invest more forces to restore Qingzhou, and Zhuzhou Daoqian is old and weak and has no energy to intervene in the affairs of the world. Yuan Shao and Gongsun Zon in the north will never make a truce if they don't die. Guisai and Liji and Yongju will not reach out to the Central Plains if they have the courage. They can only make a small fight in the Shiliang area, and Cao Cao is left in the Central Plains to completely stabilize the situation, and it has become inevitable to find a direction to develop. Chapter 307. Some things are destined. After the sacrifice was over, according to the same situation as before, Liu Bei took Li Yu to train the troops, and Chen Shi took a vote of civil officials to deal with the troubles left behind this time. However, after returning to the government office, Chen Shi saw that the cookies that should have been squatting in the greenhouse to study and grow were sitting in the government office drinking tea. Yo, why are you here, Han Mao? Chen Shi greeted with a smile, and a group of civil servants dressed in black greeted Cookie behind him, and everyone had seen this strange man who could make Qingzhou productive. You guys are too anxious, Cookie said with a wry smile. Ha! Chen Shi didn't hear clearly, sat on the main seat and greeted the back with tea pastries and preserved fruits on the top. They were going to work. I said you are too anxious, Liu Shijun announced too early. The matter of universal education can be won by the people, and it can also be praised by the wizards of the world. But have you ignored a point? Recognizing your benevolence and righteousness does not mean that there will be no conflict with you, although Qingzhou is strong, but it has not reached that level. Cookie smiled bitterly and said, you are breaking the foundation of the family. How do you say this? Chen Shi pinched his eyebrows and said helplessly, even if some people notice it, it is powerless to stop it in a short time, and it is said that the popularization of paper printing is good for all families, and only a few people can really notice it. Our biggest advantage is that paper is very cheap and popular, and when they notice, the students at the bottom should already be able to compete with them. And our interests here will make them ignore such trivial things. You are too confident. It is always the top people who can cause you trouble. Those families who can't see this don't know even if they are sold by you. It is true that the popularization of paper is good for the family, but too cheap is more beneficial to the people at the bottom. Cookie frowned and said, but 99% of the families in this world can only see the benefits. Chen Shi said indifferently, most families will believe that their bloodline is better than the bottom even if they know it. Instead of killing yourself for a plan that may fail at any time, you will be able to go further. How to solve the problem of teachers, as well as how to solve the annual investment. Don't think that I haven't thought about this problem. There are at least 200,000 school-age children in Taishan in Qingzhou, and each teacher leads 5 students for 3 years. Cookie looked at Chen Shi and said, by the way, your 1,000-character text is good. Cookie seemed to think of something and praised Chen Shi, and then continued to stare at Chen Shi. This time, including Jioshu and others, they all looked at Chen Shi. After all, Chen Shi said that it would naturally be solved when he said it. There is no good way, rely on the sea to eat the sea. As for the 40 or 50,000 students, they don't need the kind of poetry, books, etiquette, and music that you said. I said that it is just the most basic education. Chen Shi said calmly, next year we will be able to completely control Qingzhou. Expand your power to the seaside, and when the time comes, open maritime merchants and Jiaozhou trade, where the natives are not short of food. Cookie frowned. He had been to that place in Jiaozhou, and there was indeed no shortage of food, but it was not a place where people lived. The miasma was too great, but if it was a maritime merchant, the uncertainty was too great. Probably Gan Xingba has already been to Azhou, and there is no big problem if there is no accident as a transit point. Chen Shi said with a smile. I asked Gan Ning to determine the location of an overseas state very early. With this teacher and money, I can barely get by, and I ask you the most important point now. Cookie looked at Chen Shi and said solemnly, "Tell me, I'm listening." Chen Shi said very casually, "What is the family in your eyes?" Cookie spoke. "One is based on blood. Let's be a high-ranking family that continues the era centered on power, influence, fame, and financial resources." Chen Shi said a little uncertainly, "But the family has declined, and it seems that the rise is simpler than that of ordinary people." "What is a nobleman?" Cookie asked again. "The upper class is higher than the other classes." Chen Shi said casually, and then looked at Cookie for a moment, and then everyone present frowned, and the authorities were confused, and they all ignored it. "It seems you noticed. The family evolved from the aristocracy, and their goal was to return to the aristocratic class. Share the world with the Son of Heaven and divide the territory. Speaking of which, a Cookie." He glanced at everyone present. "Do you think that the top families, those who have retained the glory of nobility for almost generations, will allow the lower classes to enjoy the same opportunities as them? No, they are destined to sit in the highest position for generations and look down on the people below." Cookie looked at Chen Shi and the others with a smile. "Thunder, rain, and dew are all for the king's grace, this June." Chen Shi muttered to himself. It was only at this moment that Chen Shi completely understood why the aristocracy evolved into a family, why the family evolved into a gentry, why there was a 9th grade Zhongzheng. Everything was already doomed. The rank is too important for the nobility, the gentry are just another form of nobility. Born is destined to your status in this life. The upper grade has no cold door, the lower grade has no gentry. Well, generations have enjoyed endless glory and wealth. Just like the Jew emperor divided the land and the feudal lords, the nobles will always be nobles, and the blessings of future generations will last for hundreds of years. Compared with the delusion of Xuandagong now directly cutting off these families, the hatred is really big, and the other party's attraction is very strong. Chen Shi silently admitted Cookie's words. Chen Shi had to admit that the slogan of the family is really, very, very attractive to the family. As for the lower class people, wash and sleep, what do you have to do? Similarly, Chen Shi recognized Cookie's words more than Cookie's speculation, because Cookie's speculation really happened in history, and the 9th rank Zhongzheng completely laid the foundation of the gentry. In other words, we are now completely standing opposite all the top families. The first time Joshua felt that he was also stupid. Should he say that there was no big nobleman present who did not have this concept at all? It's almost like this, but now the situation is better that Chen Zichuan is still in your camp. You're so lucky. Chen Zichuan has proven his ability, and I also heard that Cao Mengde sent his advisors to congratulate him, and I think it will be Chen Changwen in 90%. Cookie looked like your life was too good. Fortunately, the Chen family is powerful, although I don't go out, but I will still be used as the face of the Chen family, so that the vast majority of the family will pay attention to my every move in this matter today. As long as I don't mess around, it means that this matter has not hurt the foundation of the family. Chen Shi secretly wiped a handful of sweat and cold sweat. This matter is really suspenseful today. But after this incident, it is estimated that many top strategists of the family will give up Liu Shijun. Although you are a table figure, but you cannot fully represent the Chen family, the threat of Liu Bei's actions still exists, and they will look for a way to restore the old glory. Cookie said helplessly. They will recognize Xuandagong's benevolence. That's because Xuandagong has an identity that is not bad for them. But for the lower class, they will never allow anyone to step on them. They can have pity on the lower class, but they will never give the lower class a chance to look down on them. Chen Shi held his head and smiled bitterly. Chapter 308 Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. I think we need to find a strategist from a family with a long history of aristocratic evolution to come in. Otherwise we people don't have this concept at all. Lu Su said with a wry smile. As for the top strategists from the family who will give up Liu Bei, Lu Su didn't take it to heart at all. It wasn't that he boasted. The group of people here was basically enough to fight the world. As for governing the world, if the time came, there would naturally be such a character. And it was not there that the top strategist from the humble family would not be nothing, and it would be enough to absorb it when the time came. But when he heard the kind of blessing that Cookie said about the indefinite blessing that lasted for generations, Lu Su was also quite hot-eyed. To be precise, for a race like China that considers everything for future generations, the top family needs a way to maintain its own family power. Lu Su opened his mouth and everyone stared at the Cookie, and they found that the Cookie seemed to be very suitable for this thing. Don't look at me, although I am also a descendant of a great nobleman, a 1,000-year-old family, but I don't have your wisdom. This time I just have the advantage of concepts, and I am a little far from you. Cookie said helplessly, and found that everyone was staring at him and sighed helplessly. Otherwise, if I find out about this kind of thing involving the family, I will tell you. As for other things, I am really not suitable. That's great, but now that I think about it, the idea proposed by the family is not ordinary. I haven't heard of it at all, and none of these people present have heard of it. Chen Shi nodded, and then remembered the power that Cookie said about the power sought by the family, and sighed helplessly and asked, "It must be a top family, your Chen family should know, and a table figure like you. Your Chen family is too indulgent, and you were asked to come out and roam without explaining anything?" Cookie asked curiously. "There are some special reasons, and I use a more special way." Chen, she smiled bitterly twice. "It means that he uses a special and unique method." Cookie was stunned for a moment, and then laughed. "Don't ask the family to send you out by yourself, and then draw a fork in the genealogy to return the name card to you, and your parents' tablets are still in the ancestral hall?" Chen, she didn't speak, just stared at Cookie, and laughed wildly when he saw Cookie embarrassed. "Okay, no kidding, Yang family, Yuan family. The Chen family, the Zun family, the Sima family, the Kui family, the Wang family and other families that have basically been more than 500 years old and still maintain considerable power are all known." Cookie was stared at by Chen, she a little hairy, so he didn't talk nonsense and said everything he knew. "Your family is also 500 years old?" Chen, she asked in horror. "This is very important. The 500-year-old family is definitely deeply rooted in their respective territories. It's been more than 3,000 years. It's older than your Chen family. Isn't the Chensang clan good? The Chensang clan canonized by the Fuxi sage to sacrifice Tsungu is my family," Cookie said speechlessly. "The ancestors were very powerful, but later we moved to Izhou to avoid the disaster of the Qin dynasty." "Oh." Chen, she nodded and didn't ask much. Anyway, he knew that the family would have some extremely rare collections after a long time. "So what I'm doing now is actually the ancestral business," Cookie said proudly. "My ancestral business is very promising." "Okay, don't mention the ancestral business. I want to know which families oppose this proposal." Chen, she had to make sure that there were several families that would really be in trouble. "The proposal is gone, but no family directly opposes it, or expresses an opinion, but I personally don't like this proposal very much. Otherwise, I wouldn't have told you that," Cookie said with a smile. "As a vested interest group, it is unreasonable for them to deny themselves, and consolidating and strengthening themselves is the goal of a family. At most, give back a little leftovers to the bottom when necessary, in exchange for their gratitude." Chen, she said mockingly. He basically knew the current situation, except for some changemakers and families should bet on Qingju. The top figures would probably prepare to solidify the aristocratic class. "Actually, I also think that the blessings will be endless for generations." Chen, she had not yet unified the height, so Fa Zheng jumped out to die, but before Chen she could find trouble with Fa Zheng said, "But I can't guarantee that my descendants will not fall into a trough. In that case, I still cut out a light for them early." Fa Zheng enjoyed his father's blessings, but compared to the kind of dying profession he hated, Fa Zheng believed in everything he had developed with his own hands. Fa Zheng feels that the solidified class does not represent beauty for future generations. It is also a kind of restraint. For example, Fa Zheng doesn't like the Wang family girl who is in the right place, but if nothing else, it is impossible not to marry. In view of his own personal experience, Fa Zheng felt that it was better to give them a hope, an opportunity to open up a foundation with his own hands and his own wisdom, and what he recognized most was Liu Bei's sentence, not asking about age, not asking about origin, only by talent and virtue. The virtue of the saint is cut down for 5 generations. I won't think about what will happen to the descendants of future generations. Isn't it because of the sentence that we don't ask about origin, don't ask about age, just rely on talent and virtue? When we are not sitting in this position, we are extravagant in this kind of fairness. Why do we have to occupy it forever when we sit in this position? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Fa Zheng slapped the table directly and stood up. Who is right and who is wrong, don't we know? Fa Zheng was young, and at the age of 16, he didn't care about other things at all, and roared directly at everyone. Suddenly I felt that what Xiao Ji said made a lot of sense. Lu Su sighed and said, remembering Yuan Shu's invitation at the beginning, a generation of mediocre corpses and vegetarian meals, but he could only stay at home to study the books with envy. I also want to see what kind of characters these 1,000-year-old families can cultivate. How can my Liu family still be like this? Liu Yi said domineeringly. Justice has always been the justice I want to implement. Man Chong said with an unchanged expression. I also need to leave a way for future generations. A gentle smile appeared on Jioshu's face, but there was obviously a touch of cold killing intent in his eyes. The 1,000-year-old family had suppressed these poor families for 200 years. How could they continue to get their wish forever? Even if his Jiao family became a family, they would not allow this kind of thing to happen. How can this be allowed to happen? My Mi family strongly supports the hegemony of Duke Xuanda and sweeps away the night. Mi Zhu's elegant demeanor showed a touch of coldness, so there is still a person who stands out from his Mi family. Don't do to others what you don't want to do, Sun Qian said solemnly. It seems that none of us have the idea of changing our ambitions. Chen Shi said with a smile, as long as we are united, we will never lose to anyone. I firmly believe this. Everyone present was awe-inspiring, and then under the leadership of Chen Shi, they turned their attention to Fa Zhang. Young man, you just said how your descendants are? Do you have hair even? The teasing made Fa Fang reddered, and the firmness when he was just in the limelight was swept away, and the angry Fa Zhang wanted to rush up and fight Chen Shi head-on. Guo was not in trouble to ridicule him and became Chen Shi. Chapter 309. Each has a ghostly child. In any case, Fa Zheng's words made these people present once again make up their minds. How could everything they had been pursuing be thwarted by the vulgar ideals of the family? For the sake of future generations, for the sake of all people, let us nail them to the pillar of shame. Liu Yi stood up and roared loudly. Nail them to the pillar of shame. All the people present stood up and responded loudly. The enthusiasm of young people is not so easy to be tempered, especially when there is a group of like-minded friends. I really want to fight with those top civil servants from thousand-year-old families. Let me see how much their thousand-year-old heritage can surpass me. Jioshu's hollow black fan made of gloomy wood slowly opened, looked at everyone with a gloomy smile and said, The Lord's path is the oath of a literary scholar, and he has the same purpose as all of us. Chen Shi's biggest worry is that Jioshu will be unwilling to collide with the top giants, but he didn't expect Jioshu to express his opinion so solemnly. Maybe it's also because everyone present is staring at him. Jioshu smiled slightly. I'm the best at keeping myself, but I'm living a good life here. It's not easy to find a new lord if I leave. I can't enter the circle of the family, and I will never get their approval. In that case, why should I bow my knees? We may not lose. When he is very confident. We will never lose to those people. Chen Shi stood up and said solemnly, If you are in a hurry, please believe that I will give you a stable rear. Qingju will be the starting point of Xuandagong's hegemony. Actually, I'm also very good at the art of war. Lu Su said with a smile, I also want to see the so-called masterminds of the family. Let me see if they can surpass me, how difficult the road ahead is, and encourage me. How can the road of overcoming thorns and thorns be a smooth road? Fa Zhang said excitedly, Leave it to me to solve it. Everyone present had fighting spirit in their eyes, and these people were proud of themselves, and since they opened their mouths, they would strive to move forward. On the other hand, Li Yu had no scruples about what happened today, and he understood it after the tiger prison. As long as the monarch is unswerving, then the final competition is strength. Liu Bei is indomitable, and he is full of confidence in the final battle. I'm not afraid of death. What's wrong with fighting for his ideals? What's more, you may not lose. Who is afraid of whom? Xuandagong, Cao Cao's envoys 3 Shi Jizai, Chen Changwen, Sima Boda have entered Fengao, among which Shi Jizai and Chen Changwen are both the wise men in the world. As for Sima Boda, who came with him, he is the son of Sima in Hanoi. Li Yu explained the unreasonable situation to Liu Bei. Chen Chang, I can figure it out. Shi Jizai is the earliest and most important strategist under Cao Mengde. He came here. Liu Bei thought twice and said. As for the Sima family, he had heard of it, but he didn't understand it at all. I have sent someone to keep an eye on Shi Jizai, but it is unlikely that he will get the information, and from the information coming now, it seems that the black and strong man should be Cao Cao's personal guard captain Jian Wei. However, in addition to spying on our military intelligence, such a high-profile approach is probably also covering up its own strategic intentions. Li Yu easily explained to Liu Bei the current situation. There is no way to get relevant information? Liu Bei frowned and asked, Did the spies planted by Yang Ju get any intelligence? No, most of our spies are too low-level now, and even if there are high-level spies, they are not qualified to access this kind of information now. Li Yu shook his head and said, I suggest stealing information from Shi Jizai as before. It just so happens that Shi Jizai and Zhu Gongyu have already met. After all, they are still allies, and they will exchange information if they want to, so that Shi Jizai also has a subjective assumption about us, and it is also conducive to my in-depth communication with Shi Jizai. Li Yu continued to fool Liu Bei and let Liu Bei act. Liu Bei thought for a while, or agreed to Li Yu's proposal. After all, he was still very jealous of Cao Cao, and he was still very concerned about the practical strategic intentions of the other party. Compared with the princes of the four directions, now Liu Bei can be jealous of Cao Cao and Yuan Shao. And compared with Yuan Shao's situation of smoking from time to time, Cao Cao made Liu Bei even more jealous. Liu Bei is now calm. Just think of it as a mediation life, occasionally play role-playing or something. Anyway, at other times he should talk, should blow. It seems that Li Yu will not particularly care. In fact, Liu Bei really wants to ask, just like this is really effective, At least he doesn't think anyone will believe him. Liu Bei is wise and powerful for a while, and the word is the head for a while. On the other side, Shi Jitsai and Zhu Shou have a match. He knows very well that Zhu Shou's talent is very clear. How to say it? If it is used well, it is definitely first-class power, but if it is useless, it will bury itself. Zhu Shou's talent can clear the context of the general trend, and then amplify his own advantages, but at the same time, it will also magnify his own flaws, and this amplification is irreversible. As long as Zhu Shou begins to use his talent to clear the general trend, the effect will appear, and Shi Ji is clearer. Zhu Shou has always thought that his talent is to clear the general trend. This talent is completely a double-edged sword. If you use it well, the strong will be stronger, and if you use it well, it will give the opponent a chance to turn the tables. The most painful thing about this kind of talent is that it is not easy to grasp, and the accident leads to the emergence of one's own advantages and flaws. What is an accident? Accidents are factors that cannot be grasped, and people like Shi Jitsai will never use this ability that may lead to their collapse unless absolutely necessary. If you say that, we can make a profit from it. Shi Jitsai said to Zhu Shou with a sinister smile. That's it. Zhu Shou touched his beard and laughed. Although he had determined Liu Bei's current situation, he was cautious by nature and still needed another person to test it. In this way, this Liu Xuande and Dong Zhongying are somewhat similar. Is it really a matter of origin? Shi Jitsai said with a smile, as if he had remembered what Zhu Shou said in his heart, but in fact it was unknown. It's indeed a bit similar. Zhu Shou laughed and said, won't Jitsai also go to see him when the time comes? That's natural, but there is a way to see and hear to be false. Shi Jitsai said with a smile. His evaluation of Zhu Shou was non-committal. Then I will ask Jitsai to teach me. Zhu Shou completely ignored the mockery in Shi Jitsai's words, and looked at the other party calmly. It's easy to say, it's easy to say. Shi Jitsai said indifferently, in fact, I don't know what he thinks in his heart, but if he has the opportunity, Shi Jitsai will definitely not stay. After all, the biggest threat to the north now is Yuan Shao, who has Jizhou, Bingju, and no shortage of food, horses, and soldiers, and Yuan Shao is far stronger than Liu Bei. Chapter 310 Digging People. Shi Jitsai finally seized the opportunity to end this endless temptation after wasting a lot of time with Zhu Shou. As for what Zhu Shou said before, Shi Jitsai just paid attention. His own Yangju strategy does not need others to point fingers. As for Liu Bei's problem, it is still up to him to verify. After leaving Zhu Shou, Shi Jitsai immediately chased after the two spiritual talents gathered together, and those who had spiritual talents in the direction of the government must be Liu Bei's subordinates. But there was also a person with spiritual talent wandering out, which belonged to the object of Shi Jitsai's excavation. In the face of the batch of spiritual talents in the direction of the government office, Shi Jitsai couldn't help but be a little jealous. Spiritual talent means that intelligence has been sublimated to a certain extent, which means that Liu Bei's civil servant group is not generally strong. The number of top civil servants under Liu Bei is actually more than ours, and it seems that we can no longer underestimate the people of the world in the future. While rushing in the direction of the Zhuge Liang brothers, Shi Jitsai grabbed the spiritual talent of one of them and began to analyze it. When Shi Jitsai went to the Mijia restaurant to see Zhuge Jin and Zhuge Liang's brothers, his first feeling was that he was young, and his second feeling was surprised, shocked by Zhuge Jin's age, and even more shocked by Zhuge Liang's age. God help me! Shi Jitsai shouted in his heart as soon as he saw Zhuge Liang. Even a fool knew what it meant to have such ability at such a young age. For now that he has seen Liu Bei's luxurious lineup of civil servants, Shi Jitsai is thinking about how to fill the talent gap for Cao Cao, and the two masterless wizards in front of him are surprised by Shi Ji, not to mention that one of them can even be called a genius. Without saying a word, Shi Jitsai spent money to find someone everywhere to ask about the identity of the Zhuge brothers, and scattered a lot of gold beads, but Shi Jitsai figured out the identities of these two people during tea time. Langye Zhuge Shi. Zhuge Jin and Zhuge Liang, the older one is only 18 years old, and the youngest is no more than 12. God help me. Shi Jitsai picked up the collected information and quickly browsed it. After all the entries are well known, a good idea comes to mind in an instant. Shi Jitsai sorted out his clothes and walked towards the Zhuge brothers. Dare to ask the two of you, are Zhuge Ziyu and Zhuge Kongming of Langye Zhuge clan? Shi Jitsai asked with a smile on his face to Zhuge Jin and Zhuge Kongming who were eating. I am Zhuge Ziyu, this is my second brother Zhuge Kongming. I don't know what's going on with you, sir? Although Zhuge Jin was a little dissatisfied with someone disturbing him to eat, Zhuge Jin did not reject Shi Jitsai's wanton behavior in terms of Shi Jitsai's elegant scholarly demeanor. I am Cao Gong's drama talent, and I came to Qingju to sign a covenant with Liu Shijun, and I didn't want to see the two heroes praised by my lord's father here. Shi Jitsai bragged without hesitation. In other words, everyone is from Langye County, you two are so good, it is normal to know that it is normal, and you admire it. Long admiration. Long admiration. Zhuge Jin was stunned for a moment when he heard Shi Jizai's name, and then immediately reacted and stood up and bowed to Shi Jizai. I have seen Shi Jizai. Ha ha ha, it doesn't have to be like this. You and I can talk about each other, and the Zhuge brothers who can get such praise from the father of our Lord will not be ordinary people. Why care about these small details? Tsuyu also does not have a platform to show his abilities, otherwise he will definitely not be weaker than mine. Shi Jizai said with a smile. Cao Gong's father. Oh, but the name is Song, the word is high. Zhuge Jin raised his head and thought for a while, and then a somewhat impressive character appeared in his mind. Just like Shi Jizai thought, everyone was in Langya County, and it was normal to know. However, Shi Jizai underestimated the scope of activities of the same state and county family, and it was obvious that Zhuge Xian took Zhuge Jin and the others to Cao Song, and there was no way to say that Cao Song was also the three dukes. It is reasonable for Zhuge Xian to visit and contact as a retired county governor of 2,000 stones. Everyone is a family. Although the Zhuge family has declined, the Cao family is not much better. All in all, Zhuge Jin's current tone is obviously dealing with Cao Song. Since this is the case, Shi Jizai is even more excited. Yes, my lord's father called the two of them a natural indulgence, and I didn't want me to be lucky enough to meet two of them in Mount Tai. I don't know if the two of them can be wrong to my Yangju. Cao Gong has always been thirsty for talent. Shi Jizai is now mad and has already planned to pull Zhuge Liang to use him as a strong man. Anyway, in the eyes of Shi Jizai, as long as you have awakened your spiritual talent, no matter how old you are, you can pull it out and use it if you cultivate it twice, and it is definitely easy to get started. As for child labor or not, wouldn't you be happy to sit in the position of county magistrate at the age of 12? Are you kidding? Compares envy to death, which greatly satisfies the vanity of teenagers. As for the energy of children, you have to believe, no adult can compare. Zhuge Jin was obviously stunned, scratched his head and said, Cao Gong is really flattered by this. When Shi Jizai heard this sentence, he immediately felt that this trip to Qingju was not in vain, not to mention that he picked up a high IQ Saimalang on the way, and now he has almost succeeded in looting two top strategists, and it will definitely be the rhythm of returning with a full load. In other words, there is a separate spiritual talent in that direction. Dig it up, dig it up. Shi Jizai thought of it overexcitedly. But I need to go back to the family first, get the approval of the elders in the clan, and then talk about other things, but I think with the familiarity of my uncle and Cao Gong, there should be no problem. Zhuge Jin said helplessly. Cao's situation. Zhuge Jin also knew that he was not much worse than Liu Bei, and he was also a hero, and the other party could respect himself so much, which made Zhuge Jin slightly proud, and his recognition of Cao was much higher, and then he thought that his younger brother chose Liu Bei, then sooner or later he would have to choose individual princes, since the other party admired him so much. Zhuge Jin felt that it was okay to see if the other party was suitable for him. Shi Jizai knew that he was moved when he saw Zhuge Jin's expression, and the other party's words were understandable. After all, the family was sometimes very strict about everything. Kong Ming, do you want to come to our Yangju? Shi Jizai got Zhuge Jin, but he was not satisfied and began to abduct Zhuge Liang. I saw Zhuge Liang bowing his head and saying in a child's tone, okay, if my brother goes, I will go even if I have nothing to do. My uncle won't allow me to come out alone. If you take my brother away, I can only stay at home. Zhuge Jin's eyes flashed with a hint of luster, and then swept to Shi Jizai, who was smiling and slightly excited, and did not find any problems. As for the confusion about his brother's answer, the mature Zhuge Jin did not show it, but said with a concurring face, after all, my younger brother is young, and I will not be relieved without me to take the family, and our parents died early, and we don't want to leave him alone at home, so as long as I come out, I will take him with me. Saying that, Zhuge Jin patted Zhuge Liang's back with a gentle smile on his face, and Zhuge Liang also looked at his brother with cute big eyes, a harmonious scene of brotherly love. Chapter 3:11 My Jizai's True Ability. In an instant, Shi Ji felt relieved, and felt that this trip to Mount Tai was worth the trip. One has already been started, and two are basically on the road, and the remaining one is still waiting to be captured by himself. After that, Shi Jizai talked with Zhuge Jin about the situation in the world, and the more he talked, the more he realized that Zhuge Jin was not simple, and every speech had a considerable touch on him, which simply made Shi Jizai have a feeling of springing thoughts. Tsuyu, in that case, then we will decide, how about I order someone to pick you up in Zuzhu at that time? Shi Jizai said unsatisfied, feeling very satisfied with Zhuge Jin. It's easy to say, once I finish dealing with the affairs at home, I will definitely go to Yangju, and when the time comes, I will ask Brother Jizai to recommend it on my behalf. Zhuge Jin said very solemnly, at that time, Brother Jizai, don't blame me for coming to bother. Ha ha ha, I will definitely sweep the bed to welcome you then. Shi Jitsai laughed. After that, Shi Jitsai chatted with Zhuge Jin for a few words, and then prepared to go to the place where the last spiritual talent holder had a candlelight night talk. When he went out, Jian Wei, who was following Shi Jitsai, was obviously expressing his dissatisfaction with a humming voice. Evil comes. What are you dissatisfied with? Can I still wrong you? Shi Jitsai was in a good mood now, and ridiculed Jian Wei's humming behavior. Could it be that I'm hungry again? I remember I ordered you 10 pounds of pork chops and 20 big steamed buns. You just finished eating. Do you want to fight the tooth sacrifice again? It's not that I'm hungry. I just want to know why the military strategist is so good to that thin-looking young man. Jian Wei asked puzzledly. I don't see what he is capable of. What he said is no different from what I heard in the tavern before. Ha ha ha, you also have times to think about evil. It is very different, and this person's talent can be the prime minister of the country. How can those students before it be compared? Shi Jitsai looked up to the sky and laughed. This person's talent is all in his belly, although it seems to be no different from outsiders. But the strategy in the belly is worth treating me like this. Those two are real wizards. Let's go now to meet the last wizard. I hope I can return with a full load this time. Kongming, why don't you say that you stayed in Mount Tai and have to speak like this? Zhuge Jin asked curiously after confirming that Shi Jitsai left. Just be cautious. Zhuge Liang didn't explain anything, just said very normally, but Zhuge Jin didn't ask anything else. He should be cautious when going out. He must not have a heart to harm people, and he must have a heart to guard against people. Cao Mengde. It's good to go and see. Maybe it's really a generation of wise lords. Zhuge Jin thought about what Xie Zhi said before, and decided to go to Chenliu in person. Some things are not good based on subjective assumptions. It is best to see it with your own eyes. But not long after that, we will be in the library first, but the Boda brothers actually left so early. They are different from us. Zhuge Liang said concisely. I sometimes wonder if there are more benefits to spreading family learning, or whether it is to keep family learning like this, even if the family fails. It doesn't take much time to rise again. Zhuge Jin sighed and said. Zhuge Jin was a little confused about the rationality of the existence of the family. I don't know, but I want to see what effect it will have on spreading family learning. Zhuge Liang said with a somewhat excited expression. On the other side, Shi Jitsai took Jian Wei and rushed in the direction of the last solitary spiritual talent. As a result, as soon as he got close to the side of that spiritual talent, Shi Jitsai felt a plausible spiritual talent. Thinking about Xiahou Yuan's awakened legion talent before, Shi Jitsai couldn't help but be stunned. Is there any other rare type of talent? For such a thing as awakening talent, I have seen more and understood more, and Shi Jitsai has also summed up a little information. First of all, the one who has spiritual talent must be a top wise man. And he is a top wise man who has formed a complete sense of values, and will unswervingly implement it. As for the warrior's legionnaire talent, Shi Jitsai didn't know if it was absolutely correct because he didn't see much, but Shi Jitsai also guessed that the one who could have talent could only be a master of the internal chi separation level. As for how to awaken, it is not clear. It is precisely because of the existence of these strange talents that Shi Ji combined the evidence he had collected, compared the historical situation, and finally came to a conclusion. That is, when some people's abilities reach the extreme, there may be a certain perception, and the talent will appear after the extreme sublimation. This made Shi Jitsai guess whether some non-civil and military generals also have their own talents, or some people may have two, or even more. Thinking of that situation, Shi Jitsai shuddered. And now Shi Jitsai's own talent felt a plausible talent and couldn't help but be stunned. This is probably the kind of situation he guessed. It is worth confirming clearly, because it is about whether anyone will have two or even more talents at the same time. This Fengao city is really a hidden dragon and a crouching tiger, but it's cheaper for me, and my spiritual talent is not only copied, but also used to find top talents. Shi Jitsai thought proudly. After all, every top strategist means a huge supplement to his own strength. Dang dang dang. Shi Jitsai chose to knock on the door directly without hesitation, and after a long time, a little lowly with a three-ring bun poked her head out to look at Shi Jitsai and asked, Who are you? Shi Jitsai, a military strategist under Cao Mengde, the governor of Yangzhou, has seen the young lady. Shi Jitsai smiled and saluted Miss Cai. Oh. I remember who Cao Mengde is. Come in. Miss Sir grabbed her three-ring bun. Yang Lian, you help me entertain the opera military division first, and I'll go find my sister. After saying that, he ran to the backyard. After that, under Shi Jitsai's puzzled expression, an elegant girl appeared in front of Shi Jitsai. I've seen the opera military division, but I don't know how good my senior brother Cao Mengde has been lately. Cai Yang bowed to Shi Jitsai. That elegant temperament made the drama of the beauty of the county beauty can't help but be stunned, although she reacted at the next moment, but she couldn't help but blush. However, Shi Jizai is now sure that the fluctuation of the faint spiritual talent appears in this girl who has just appeared. But although Shi Jizai doesn't understand what is going on with this woman, he clearly hears the words my senior brother Cao Mengde. My lord has been fine lately, but he misses the young lady a little. He doesn't even know who the other party is now. Who would care about a woman in the entire Cao's intelligence organization in Qingju? Just know the gender of Liu Bei's wife. As soon as these words came out, Shi Jizai clearly saw a red cloud emerging on the other side, and instantly understood that there was a drama in this matter, so while making clichés, he expressed Cao's thoughts about Xia Yang, all, in one sentence. My lord has not thought about tea and food for you recently. You still go back to Yangju with me, and my master's guild will protect you. As for what kind of trouble Cao will cause if Xia Yang is really brought back, Shi Jizai feels that Cao will definitely be able to settle it, and bring back a girl with spiritual talent. Even if Cao suffers a little, it is worth it. Chapter 312 Really Not Brothers? Shi Jizai's words are dripping. While analyzing Zhuge Liang's spiritual talent, it is said that his interest in the young man named Zhuge Liang is greater than Zhuge Jin. Fortunately, Xia Yang really thought that Cao sent Shi Jizai to find her, so he didn't have much defense against Shi Jizai, and soon the two became acquainted, and Shi Jizai also successfully got to know Xia Yang's identity. Miss Xie, I still don't know how you came to Mount Tai. I remember that my lord once said that Miss Xie should have married into the Wei family. Shi Jizai was a little embarrassed when he said this. After all, he was still saying that his lord was missing Xia Yang before, and he was married now, and this was teasing a married woman. My father died because of Dong Zhuo, and I kept filial piety for my father for 3 years, so I did not enter the Wei family, but Zhongdao has died, and I can't marry into the Hedong Wei family. Xia Yang said with a slightly miserable expression. But fortunately, my father left behind a lot of old friends when he was alive, and Uncle Li took me out when he left Chang'an, placed me in Mount Tai, and now I am the manager of the Taishan Library. Xia Yang thought about it and didn't appear much, but Li Yu, who would deal with it as long as there was a need, was in a much better mood. Therefore, there are no shortcomings. I don't know how good my senior brother has been in recent years. There is nothing to doubt about someone bringing Xia Yang out. After all, Xia Yang is a celebrity who makes friends all over the world, and it is normal to have 1 or 2 friends with extraordinary abilities. However, for Xia Yang's previous actions, Shi Ji was secretly remembered in his heart, and his good impression of Cao was clearly visible. After all, except for the guard named Yang Lian brought by Miss Er, the rest of the places where Xia Yang lived were maids, and it was impossible for him as an outsider to sit there for a long time. During this period, Shi Jizai also asked Xia Yang if it was safe to live here. Xia Yang just smiled and said, "There are no male servants in my house, but there are 20 teams of urban management patrolling outside, and once there is a problem, at the blow of the whistle, more urban management will appear." In fact, Xia Yang also knew that these were not her own guards. Even if Li Yu used power for personal gain, it was impossible to come to this extent, and more than 5 teams would have to go to Manchong to sign a document. As for why Xia Yang can enjoy this benefit now, the reason is very simple. Liu Bei, Chen Shi, Lu Su, and his gang all lived nearby. Li Yu just shook his hands when he drew the high alert range of Fenggao. Xia Yang naturally enjoyed this benefit, coupled with the benefits that come with the library, not to mention Xia Yang's solid here. It is not easy to come in at leisure. Although Shi Jizai did not communicate much with Xia Yang, most of the things on Cao's side Xia Yang were thorough at one point, so Shi Jizai had to praise a talented woman who was famous all over the world for not parallel goods. What's more, many ideas make Shi Jizai feel amazed. I dare not say it is right, but it is definitely thought-provoking. Xia Yang, who has never forgotten his words, has read every subversive book written by Chen Shi, and is naturally affected. This made Shi Jizai sigh that if Xia Yangsheng was born as a man, he would also be a famous minister of a generation, but unfortunately he is now a woman. However, since Xia Yang is familiar with his lord. After all, a generous and talented woman like Xia Yang seems to be very suitable as a mistress in Shi Jizai's opinion, and as far as he knows now, the two can be said to be Lang has a lover's concubine, and there is a high possibility of success in matchmaking. However, what made Shi Jizai entangled was the unknown title of Kefu, and it was precisely because of this that Shi Jizai thought about it for a long time and still did not directly send an invitation to Xia Yang, but just planned to go back and tell Cao about today's events. At that time, everything will be decided by the Lord, although he is talented, but it is unknown, and Shi Jizai also understands why Xia Yang will be widowed in Mount Tai. When Shi Jizai left, Xia Yang did not keep him. As a widow, Xia Yang has always been clean. Because of this, no man who is not an elder will ever be given a chance to be alone with her. Just like today, if it weren't for her sister, Xia Yang would never let Shi Jizai enter the door. Even if he knew that the other party was Cao Mengde's subordinate, he would not allow him to enter. After Shi Jizai left, Miss Xia followed Xia Yang and smiled secretly. Sister, senior brother Cao is still thinking about you. Pain. Before she finished speaking, Miss got a knuckle on her head, and then looked at her sister with misty eyes. Age, I said before that Wei Zhongdao guy is unreliable, but Dad insisted that you marry that tuberculosis ghost. Now it's miserable, really. Sai Yang glanced at his sister who was muttering there and didn't say anything, and couldn't help but think of Sai Yong's life when he was still alive, and now he wanted to struggle at that time, and even learn from Sima Xiangru and Zhuo Wenjun would not be like this now, and every time he thought of this, Sai Yang was a little envious of his sister. You must know that Miss Sai and Yang Zhen were eloped, and they were abducted by Yang Zhen before they were even young, and then Sai Yong couldn't afford to lose anyone, so he gave Miss to Yang Zhen with a dowry, and now he can be regarded as a regular. This is also the reason why she is also Sai Yong's daughter, the same smart, and Miss also gave birth to a demon like Yang Hu, but there are not many historical records, because hiding for the venerable can be regarded as the habit of an unprincipled historian. It is said that Sai Yong planned to marry his second daughter to one of his 5 apprentices, but Miss felt that Wang Kan was mature, Jiu Yong was dull, Wan Yu was conservative, and Lu Kui was tough. As for Cao Cao, Miss didn't want to be a substitute for her sister at all, so she ran away without saying a word, and soon got along with Yang Zhen, and Sai Yong had the heart to kill. Which is why Miss got married before the age of 15. On the other side, Shi Jitsai looked at the place where the spiritual talent he felt was and couldn't help but frown, and the 4 big characters of General Zhendong made Shi Jitsai instantly understand whose house this was. It seems that even if this person is not Liu Bei's subordinate, he has a deep relationship with Liu Bei, otherwise, how could he live here? Shi Jitsai thought helplessly. Forget it, since you're here, you'll get things done. When he thought of it, he did it, and Shi Jitsai stepped forward, but just as he wanted to go further, he was blocked, so Shi Jitsai saluted the guards, and informed Liu Shijun, Yangzhou Governor Cao Mengda's subordinate Shi Jitsai came to meet him. The 2 Shu family guarding the door were stunned, and then bowed to Shi Jitsai. Sir, please wait a moment, I'll go and report. Soon the soldier guarding the gate came back and bowed to Shi Jitsai with his gun. Lord, please go in. As soon as Shi Ji entered the door, he saw a wall standing in the middle of the road, and he couldn't help but be stunned, and looked at Jian Wei behind him, who looked the same ugly and strong. Sure he was not a brother? Chapter 313. It's not that easy to win. Drama husband, you can go in, this one can't go in. Xu Chu bowed to Shi Jitsai and said, why can't my old master go in? I'm here to protect my military division. How can I ensure the safety of my military division's life if I don't go in? Jian Wei looked at the strong man opposite him with a waist circumference similar to his, and couldn't resist the urge to go up and slap the other party twice. Ch, with me here, not a single fly can fly in here. Xu Chu patted his chest with an arrogant face, making a banging sound. With you? Jian Wei ran to Xu Chu with a hum, stretched out his finger and tapped Xu Chu's chest, and the originally solid muscles were concave like a little fat. Xu Chu looked down at the small pit on his chest, couldn't help but be startled, and stared up at Jian Wei's fire. I underestimate you, let me try it too. Saying that, Xu Chu's fingertips also pointed at Jian Wei's muscles, but it felt like he was stabbed on an iron plate, and he was stunned that there was no way to poke out a hole, and he looked up at Jian Wei and found the other party's playful smile. Probably noticing Xu Chu's surprised expression, Jian Wei showed his big white teeth and mocked Xu Chu. Try it harder, if you can't let you punch, at your level, you still protect others, Tiske. Xu Chu was furious, originally relying only on the strength of his body itself. He was ridiculed by Jian Wei, and his fingers burst out with a black light, and he pointed at Jian Wei fiercely, and the originally solid muscles were concave like fat. Jian Wei and Xu Chu were obviously stunned. Jian Wei was surprised that the dead fat man in front of him could actually stab his solid muscles into the dent. Xu Chu was shocked that the guy in front of him was hit head-on with his own internal energy, and his muscles were dented. Is this really a human body? Jian Wei did chest expansion exercises, and then shook his waist. A crackling sound erupted from his body. Boy, you're good, but wherever my military division goes, I have to follow there. This is the order of my lord, so if you stop me. Jian Wei shook his halberd twice. This is Mount Tai. No matter who your lord is, how can my lord Liu Xuanda's place be entered by a barbarian like you, and put down your weapons with knowledge? Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Xu Chu snorted coldly twice, and a strong momentum erupted on his body, asking Jian Wei to put down his weapon, not wanting Jian Wei to hold his weapon unconsciously. Staring at Xu Chu with bull's eyes. You actually dare to let me disarm? My lord never let me put down my weapon. You are looking for death. Jian Wei was furious, and slammed his halberd on the road paved with bluestone slabs in Liu Bei's courtyard, and the strong bluestone slabs directly turned into dust. Xu Chu took out a big sword, and a dark inner chi directly wrapped himself. Fools knew that the other side was a fierce enemy. saying that any military general who walked here would hand over his weapon to Xu Chu before, but a military general like Jian Wei who did not have this awareness at all. This is the first time Xu Chu has seen it. However, as Liu Bei's personal guard, Xu Chu firmly stated that he would never let Jian Wei go to Liu Bei with a weapon. No, it should be said that a super dangerous animal like Jian Wei can't go to see Liu Bei, but Xu Chu seemed to forget that when he talked about Jian Wei's animal, Jian Wei looked at him like an animal. Shi Jizai has already stood aside to watch the play. He is not worried about anything going wrong at all. To be honest, it would be strange if there was no surveillance around him. After all, this is in Mount Tai, and Shi Jizai is very confident in Jian Wei's combat ability. As long as Jian Wei is undefeated, then there is nothing to worry about, and as long as the other party is at a disadvantage, someone will naturally stop it. Looking at Liu Bei's mansion shining with scorching light under the twilight, Zhu Shou couldn't help but believe 3 points in what he said. This is simply burned by burning money. Dongzhuo was probably not so luxurious at the beginning. Just when Shi Jizai was admiring Liu Bei's residence, Xu Chu and Jian Wei were already a little unable to hold back and wanted to make a move, and at this moment, a middle-aged scribe with a short beard and elegant temperament walked out. What's going on with Zhongkang? Li Changsha, wait a moment, and I will report to you when I take down this black barbarian. Xu Chu glanced at Liu and said loudly, "What did you say?" Jian Wei was furious and swung his halberd towards Xu Chu. Evil stops. At this time, Shi Jizai finally showed an angry expression and scolded Jian Wei. How can this be done outside Liu Shijun's door? After scolding Jian Wei, Shi Jizai saluted Liu with a smile on his face. The chief historian of the governor of Yangzhou, Shi Jizai came to meet Liu Shijun of Taishan, but this does not seem to be the way of Taishan's hospitality. Ha ha ha. Liu's eyes rolled. Your Excellency, this is not the way of being a guest, and there is clearly a trend of fighting courts. My lord Cao Gong and Liu Shijun are both Han ministers and contribute to the Han dynasty, and Liu Shijun treats me like this is not a hospitality courtesy. Shi Jizai said with a smile. Don't you hear that guests are free to do whatever they want? Liu smiled and said, but when the chief historian talks about hospitality, do you think that evil man should be like this when he enters my court? Don't worry about this matter. Zhongkang will step back. You can rest assured to play here. Liu Shijun will definitely ensure my personal safety. You can rest assured. Shi Jizai smiled and said to Jian Wei, turned around and bowed to Liu. I don't know my brother's name yet. Please teach me. Taishan Liu. Li Wenru has seen brother Shi. Liu said with a flat face. He was still thinking about how to fool this guy. In an instant, Shi Jizai knew that Zhu Shou was pitted by Liu, and under Shi Jizai's spiritual talent, Liu clearly showed his spiritual talent. Wouldn't this almost say that Zhu Shou was pitted to death? You are not cheated. Who is cheated? It should be said that if you have mental calculations, you can't get rid of the pit. But then again, Zhu Shou was cheated. What is the matter with his drama? The powerful Yuan Shao was more threatening than Liu Bei of Qingzhou, and the next moment Shi Jizai cleared everything up, and without hesitation chose to pretend to believe it to be true, turned back to communicate with Zhu Shou, and then helped Qingzhou put Yuan Shao to death. In the end, if Yuan Shao could be mutilated, Shiji felt that he would decisively ally with Yuan Shao as a victim, and then fight angrily in Qingzhou, which was in their Yangzhou interests. Thinking of this, Shi Jizai decisively made a no-ignorant expression and went to see Liu Bei with Liu, and then prepared to cooperate with Liu's plan. No matter what plan Taishan prepared, he planned to greatly increase the degree of harm to Yuan Shao in the original way. If Shi Jizai's goal is to strive for stable development time, then Shi Jizai's goal is not to let Yuan Shao occupy a complete grain-producing land and a complete horse-producing land, and how dangerous the cavalry is Shi Jizai has long been determined, so his goal is to abolish Yuan Shao's combat effectiveness of about 30%. Obviously, Shi Jizai was ready to borrow a knife to kill people, and decisively wanted to pretend to be a victim. He now hoped that the Qingzhou plan would succeed, and then he also pretended to be a victim to cheer for Yuan Shao. Liu didn't know Shi Jizai's thoughts, but even if he knew, he wouldn't be too surprised. Conspiracy was debunked as a common situation. Do you really think that there was no remedial plan prepared in advance? Liu Yi's incomplete second, third, and fourth floor remediation plans have long been out. Chapter 314. With this execution. Why didn't you say it earlier? After Chen Shi returned home, the housekeeper presented a letter and a jade pendant. Master, a scholar came today, saying that it was your distant relative, passing through here, and learned that you would be married, so he left a jade pendant. As for other things, the other party said that you can know after reading the letter. Chen Shi took the bamboo pipe puzzled, opened the wax seal, and poured out the silk cloth. Chen Shi was still quite surprised. He didn't even know that he had a distant relative. In other words, since it was a distant relative who left, why was he in a hurry? According to the code of conduct of this era, if you don't stay for 3 months, it is considered negligence. Uncle, do you know that person? Why is there no retention? Chen Shi hadn't read the letter yet, so he turned his head and asked. Picking up the jade pendant, after coming to this world, his grasp of the value of jade has improved a lot, and a jade pendant is afraid that the value is not less than 10,000 yuan, and the other party can leave this kind of thing. It must not be an ordinary person. That person is indeed somewhat similar to the master, but I haven't seen this person before. The old housekeeper thought for a moment and said, I have repeatedly tried to keep it at that time, but the other party seemed a little hurried, and after leaving this letter, he left in a carriage and left. Oh, that's right. Chen Shi said helplessly, forget it, if you see it later, I'll entertain you, and I'll read the letter. Zichuan, my brother, I am the Sima family of Hanoi, although you and I have never met, but the Sima family of Hanoi and the Chen family of Yingchuan are old friends, and the ancestors are also for one person. Chen Shi was shocked when he saw the beginning. Sima Boda was very famous, and the more famous was his second brother Sima Zhongda, who was the strong man who dragged Zhuge Liang to death. In an instant, Chen Shi connected all the things, and then rushed out without hesitation, but after running 3 or 5 steps, he stopped with a look of annoyance. I was really careless. Just noticed that Sima Yi was too young, but forgot that Sima Yi could let his brother take it out. Damn it. Chen Shi looked annoyed. With the Sima brothers, he was simply extremely depressed. Damn, brother Sima seems to have just passed through this place, did not stay for a long time, before and after definitely less than 10 days, otherwise after the end of the middle of 2 days, the names of each restaurant with the surname Sima and Zhuge should be sent to me, which forces me to write out those who are almost 10 years old or older who can wander around, as long as the people on the list appear and report directly. Chen Shi was entangled to death. It's not a matter of him waiting for the rabbit, but the famous ministers and fierce generals at the end of the Han dynasty were basically wandering around, and you can't be sure where the other party is at all, just like he knew that Pang Tong was the Pang family, so he asked Jian Yong and Liu Yang to help lead the sheep when they went to Jingzhou, but God knew where Pang Tong was at that time, and he wasn't in the Pang family anyway. Forget it. Bad luck, Uncle Chen. Help me inform Mi Zizhong and ask him to bring me the roster of the 10-day occupancy staff. Chen Shi said with a depressed face. He now doubts whether the last time all the lying guns were caused by Sima Yi. After finishing it, I ran away. Think about the time, it's just right. Thinking of this, Chen Shi was even more depressed. Speechless. That kind of demon didn't appear in front of him. Who would have thought that he could still make people play happily? Chen Shi was a little crazy, grabbing Sima Yi to carry out the transformation of life ideals, and the plans such as the 3 views and heavy trees themselves were what Chen Shi had been delusional about, and the result was just like this, depressed. Sir, are you okay? Butler Chen saw that since Chen Shi opened the silk cloth, his face turned red and black. Suddenly said with some worry, this Chen Shi is the pillar of their new Chen family. It's okay. You ask Jenna to bring the paper and pen first. Then go to Zizhong. I want to check the name. Tell Zizhong, this time not only the names of Zhuge and Sima, but also all the existing names this 10 days. Tell him that I am not too troublesome this time. Chen Shi waved his hand with a depressed face. Yes, sir. Butler Chen bowed and retreated. Forget it. It's over. Chen Shi tugged at the corners of his mouth and comforted himself, but he didn't expect that Sima Yi and I were still distant cousins. Write a letter to invite them, and the other party should give some face no matter what. Thinking of this, Chen Shi felt a lot more at ease, but after this disgusting incident, Chen Shi didn't intend to hide it at all. He was ready to write out all the names of those famous ministers and fierce generals who could walk around over 10 years old. Not to mention that the list is well known, at least those core servants in the hands of the Mi family, that is, the shopkeepers who open shops in various places, must remember that they find one report at a time. Now regardless of whether he Pang Tong is in Jingzhou or not, even if he goes to Izhou, as long as he lives in the Mi family's restaurant, then he will be tied to Feng Jiao. Chen Shi doesn't want this kind of thing to happen twice at all. Not long after Fan Jian brought the paper and pen, Chen Shi hadn't written much, so Mizhu pulled the pile of bamboo slips over to the car. Chen Shi looked at the cart of bamboo slips as big as a head. This is only a list of the Mi family restaurant living in Fenggao in 10 days. If you look at the entire Han dynasty, the number is simply maddening. But it can be seen how profitable the Mi family's business is. It should be said that it is worthy of being the 5 wealthy merchants. Zichuan, the list of all the people staying here this week, as well as the list of some people who didn't accidentally know about it, are here. Mizhu pointed to the cart and said, help me pick out the passengers with the surnames Sima and Zhuge for me. So many are speechless. Urge you to send them. You haven't picked them out yet, right? It's really crazy. Chen Shi said speechlessly. In the past few months, every 10 days in his hands, there were only more than 100 names for a long time, as well as his check-in time, but none of them were a little impressive to him. I have long picked it out. All our restaurants in Fenggao, including restaurants that are not opened by my family, will send the names of the occupants of these two surnames to me every day, and then accumulate for 10 days. And there are still some restaurants in the Mi family that are willing to help throughout. Taishan will hand over the note to me on the 10th day, and the list under the rule of Qingju will also be passed on to me every month. And then I will hand it over to you. Mi Zhu took out the unorganized bamboo slip with a proud face. In an instant, Chen Shiru was struck by lightning. He underestimated Mi Zhu's execution, and now that he thinks about it, there are not many people who seem to be surnamed Zhuge and Sima, and they can get more than a dozen every 10 days, and more than 100 lists at the end of the month. How strange is this? Why didn't he think much about it at that time? Read it. You just read it to me directly. I was really too dumbfounded before. If I had known that your execution was so strong, I would have asked you to report to me once a day. It's a pit. Chen Shi held his head and said helplessly, "What is this?" Chapter 315 Zhuge Kongming. Zhuge Fu. Stay in November 11th. Mi Zhu picked up the bamboo slip and began to read, Sima Lang, stay in the... On November 12th. Chen Shi, who listened to it after reading it, was drowsy, and had no impression at all except for a little heartache when he heard Sima Lang and Sima Yi. Zhuge Jin stayed at Mi's restaurant on November 11th. Just when Chen Shi was about to listen to dozing, a familiar name came over, and he couldn't help but be stunned, and before he opened his mouth to ask, Mi Zhu continued to read, Zhuge Liang, stay at Mi's restaurant on November 11th. Stop. This time Chen Shi was completely awake, grabbed the scroll of bamboo slips, stared at the two names on it, and after a long time, slapped the table under Mi Zhu's shocked eyes, completely ignoring the pain in his hands and laughed. Ha! Lost in the East and collected mulberry elm. Let's go. Let me invite these two wizards. After saying that, he walked away directly regardless of everyone's shocked eyes. The carriage was waiting outside. Losing Sima Yi, choosing Zhuge Liang, Liu Xuanda's luck was still quite high. After taking 2 steps, Chen Shi remembered and said to Mi Zhu a little embarrassedly, Zizhong, which restaurant do these two people live in? Zichuan turned over the letter, and there were traces of knife carving behind it, and there were engravings on it somewhere. Mi Zhu hurried over and said. Chen Shi flipped through the slip, and sure enough, he saw a line of burning traces in the lower right corner. Central Restaurant? Chen Shi was stunned, thinking about the place where Sima Yi and Sima Lang lived before. Sima Yi and Zhuge Liang were destined to meet together on the same day and in the same place? I don't know if something exciting happened. For example, Sima Yi took advantage of his age to beat the young Zhuge Liang or something. In Chen Shi's view, Zhuge Liang is young after all, and he can't be too demonic, and it has been a long time. The 2-year age gap may be filled, but now, Chen Shi doesn't think that Zhuge Liang will suppress Sima Yi at all. As for the spiritual talent, Chen Shi estimated that Sima Yi might have it, and it was very likely that it was the spiritual talent that made everyone lie down. As for Zhuge Liang, he is too small. Looking back, the Sima brothers also gave him some thoughts for getting married. Why should Chen Shi also stand on Sima Yi's side? After all, when he grows up, he can be a character who will be bullied by Zhuge Liang fiercely, and now he doesn't take advantage of it, and he can only imagine how miserable this must be in the future. Zizhong, hurry up and take me there, if you let these two guys slip away again. We really have eyes and no beads. I just accidentally ran away to Fa Xiaoji, and let 2 guys with more potential than Fa Xiaoji run away, and we should restructure Taishan. Chen Shi turned his head to Mi Zhu and said, Hurry up. Go quickly. As soon as Mi Zhu heard this, he didn't pretend to be elegant, and directly took a big step and dragged Chen Shi to his carriage. Chen Shi said that whoever is powerful is really powerful. How good this kid is Mi Zhu is now clear. As a result, Chen Shi opened his mouth and ran away to Fa Xiaoji, and 2 guys who may be better than Fa Xiaoji are still staying in their own restaurant, and Mi Zhu almost spurted out a mouthful of old blood after hearing this. The most important thing in the world is talent, and after running away to Dharma filial piety, why don't you die? But now Mi Zhu has no intention of blaming Chen Shi at all. He didn't want to mention the 2 guys who had run away. What he had to do was to keep the 2 guys who were still staying in his restaurant, and it was not too late to make up for the dead. Mi Zhu can be said to be Liu Bei's super diehard party, and everything is considered with Liu Bei as the center. Mi Zhu, who had rarely ridden a horse before, now drove the carriage towards the central restaurant without any scruples. Looking at the posture, it was estimated that he hit someone. Mi Zhu didn't stop, and he just waited for the 2 Zhuge to come back and smash money to smooth out the matter. Hey, be careful if you do this, you will be caught by Benin. Chen Shi grabbed the car window and said in horror, The speed in the city is so high, you are going to die. Let's meet those 2 people first. As for the rest, it's nothing. If Benin comes to find trouble, I will slip away first. After the incident, I will turn myself into him. Anyway, the most I can do is to do coolies, and those who have money can redeem themselves by spending some money. Mi Zhu said completely indifferently. His face was full of money and other things, and I was happy to buy 2 Farjing for 1 billion money. Don't worry, the 2 of them won't run away. Chen Shi had adapted to this kind of ultra-high-speed carriage, and said with a smile with a steady heart rate. 2 have run away. You tell me now that the remaining 2 won't run. Mi Zhu stared at Chen Shi and said dissatisfiedly, tell me what's going on, why did you inexplicably run away from 2 Fa Xiaoji? When he said this, Mi Zhu touched his left chest, a little like the expression of other businessmen who were about to throw themselves into the river after losing their business. Chen Shi roughly said the matter, and suddenly Mi Zhu looked at Chen Shi's eyes full of resentment. Zichuan, since you know what the other party's name is, I will find the name directly. My Mi family has business all over the world, although it is not easy to find a scholar, but it is much easier than waiting for a rabbit like you. Chen Shi smiled bitterly and shook his head. You go to see those 2, and you will know why I did this. All the way fast, there were several times on the road to be stopped by the urban management. Fortunately, Chen Shi's name was hard enough, and the business emblem of the Mi family on the carriage was also famous enough. Otherwise it would be Mi Zhu's rampage, not to mention that there are still people on the road. Even if there is no one on the road, they will be stopped. Master, the central restaurant has arrived. Although the carriage was speeding fast, except for being a little unstable at the beginning, it was still within an acceptable range later, and it took a meal to reach the central restaurant. Okay. Mi Zhu jumped out of the carriage, and at this time he didn't have the heart to pretend to use an elegant stool or anything, so he would talk about it when he saw someone first. I've seen the master, I've seen the governor. Mi Zhu's carriage stopped out, and the sharp-eyed Xiao hurriedly ran back, and when Mi Zhu came out, the shopkeeper of the central restaurant had already appeared at the door to greet the 2. Let's go. Go in and take a look. Chen Shi also jumped down, shook his head at Mi Zhu and said, leave one horizontally and vertically. Your name is Zhao Yuan, right, a native of Donghai in Zhuzhou. He joined my Mi family 3 years ago, and he did a good job, and the entire Mi family restaurant in Taishan will be handed over to you to take care of, and you will do a good job in the future, and come back to make up for your appointment paperwork, as well as the shopkeeper's clothing. Mi Zhu patted the old shopkeeper who was more visible than him, called out the other party's name with a smile on his face, and then passed by. Leaving a look of joy falling from the sky, shopkeeper Zhao was a little overwhelmed, and followed Chen Shi inside. Master, if you need anything, please tell me. Shopkeeper Zhao saw Mi Zhu enter. No matter how ecstatic he was, he instantly restrained himself and followed Mi Zhu step by step. It's none of your business. Mi Zhu waved his hand and said, just do your own thing. Chen Shi glanced at the people who were eating in the lobby. None of them matched the image of Zhuge Jin and Zhuge Liang, and was about to go to the house where the 2 lived to visit the 2, but saw a young man in brocade walking down slowly. His elegant temperament and bright eyes made Chen Shi overjoyed, and found it. Chapter 316. Some things can't be forced. Chen Shi was overjoyed at first, and then frowned slightly. Kong Ming, since your brother Zhuge Ziyu knows why I came, why didn't you come down? Chen Shi looked at Zhuge Liang and knew what was going on, but he still asked without giving up. We are a family, and there are not many outstanding people in this generation. Zhuge Liang bowed and said, expressing all his helplessness in one sentence. Can you let me meet you? Chen Shi said helplessly. The family not only means monopoly knowledge and endless glory, but also means a responsibility that must be borne by someone. Zhuge Liang shook his head slightly. I am conceited that I am not weaker than my brother. My brother chose his own path, and I also chose my direction. Zhuge Liang's demeanor made Mi Zhu seem to see Lu Su's benevolence and Chen Shi's wisdom pearl in his hands, as well as the indifferent look. Neither humble nor arrogant tone surprised Mi Zhu. What Chen Shi said was right. This young man will not be weaker than Fa Xiaoji, and he may still be better. That's it. Chen Shi said helplessly. Do you stay here, or do you live with us instead? Let's leave now. My brother will leave this place to return to Zhuzhou Langya after I leave. Zhuge Liang said indifferently, not at all the confusion when parting with his relatives, let alone that kind of sadness. Okay, I will take care of government affairs in the future, and once I won't, then you can find someone else. Chen Shi looked at Zhuge Liang and said, okay, I also need a lot of practice now, but you believe that I can do it well? Zhuge Liang's eyes flashed with a strange color. If you smash it, anyway, everyone has experienced that kind of thing, and I just experienced it once. Chen Shi said indifferently, we in Taishan can withstand the toss, and I believe that all losses will be compensated from other places when the time comes, and everything doesn't matter. This is Zhuge Liang. Others Chen Shi had to think about it before saying this, or they had to be educated for a while before they could say that. As for Zhuge Liang, it was not necessary. The embodiment of eternal wisdom. If you make a mistake once, there will be no second time. Except for some overwork and occasional unclear acquaintances, Everything else is drizzling. Zichuan. Mizhu signaled with his eyes that there was no effect, so he shouted at Chen Shi. Kongming, you are here. I will go and talk to Zizhong about something, and my promise will not change your words. Chen Shi smiled and said, he knew what Mizhu wanted to say. He also hesitated about Zhuge Jin, but finally gave up. Zichuan, do you want to give up the older one upstairs? This Zhuge Kongming has such a heart at such an age, and if he is a little older, he may not be weaker than Fa Xiaoji. How can such a wizard fall into the hands of others? Mizhu looked at Chen Shi with a gloomy face and said. After seeing Zhuge Liang, Mizhu clearly knew that Zhuge Jin, who was also called a wizard by Chen Shi, could not be left outside, and must be in his own hands. This probably won't work. Chen Shi said helplessly. What's wrong? Forced to stay, can't so many of us still convince him? Mizhu said indignantly. In his opinion, this obviously belonged to Chen Shi's inaction. First of all, if you force yourself to stay, you definitely can't hurt him. You can't hurt the other party, but you have to treat them well with delicious food, whether it's because of the other party's talent or because of Kongming, you say yes. Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and said, I've taken care of all of this. Mizhu patted his chest and said, it's not that simple, because of Kongming, we definitely can't hurt each other, and if we are under house arrest, sooner or later there will be an omission, and Kongming will let the other party go. Chen Shi sighed and said, because this goes against the other party's requirements. And if we restrict Kongming, we will be centrifugal from each other. You don't want to kill each other, do you? Hearing this, Mizhu's face was uncertain, and it was basically impossible to accept Zhuge Liang's words and force Zhuge Jin to be placed under house arrest. And if he kills it, Liu Bei will not be able to pass that level at first, and it will make the intelligent generation hesitate too much when they defect, which is even more in Liu Bei's interests. Are you just giving up like this? Mizhu said with a gloomy face. This is the family, but we have already gotten the most essence, and when the time comes, treat Zhuge Ziyu with courtesy, and send the gift out of the city to ensure the personal safety of others. Chen Shi said with a smile. After he got married this time, the families who saw Liu Bei's heritage will also start to officially bet towards Liu Bei one after another, and soon Liu Bei will have a lot more families here. Although Chen Shi knew very well that the family children who came to Liu Bei would basically not be too good, it was by no means a good thing to do, and there was absolutely no problem as a governor of a county or a place. After all, even if the family hates Liu Bei to death, as long as Liu Bei has the hope of sweeping the world, the family also needs to leave some blood for Liu Bei for its own inheritance, so that even if this generation of outstanding talents fails because of their bad eyes, the family is weakened because of this, as long as the surviving lineage has family studies, and then a similar character comes out. It is basically only a matter of time before it rises again. Just let him leave, I'm not willing. Mizhu's eyes were on fire, and he said, after reading Zhuge Kongming, I know that what you said is really not mixed with a little water. Such a person is not under the hands of Xuan de Gong, and it is better to end it with us. When Mizhu said this, a cold light flashed in his eyes. The most quintessential thing about the Zhuge family is Kongming, although his brother is excellent, but he is not as good as him, everything is left on the line, it is impossible to do it seamlessly, it is already a fluke to get Zhuge Kongming, this matter is here. Chen Shi said with a solemn expression. Chen Shi glanced at Mizhu. He didn't want Mizhu, a good old man, to have a conflict with Zhuge Liang for Liu Bei. After all, with Zhuge Liang's ability, Mizhu really did it. Zhuge Liang would definitely notice it. In the end it would only make Liu Bei difficult. Instead of this, it would be better to eat and drink to entertain him, and then talk about the words when the time comes. Mizhu sighed. He also knew that he was a little reckless in this matter. Accepting his younger brother to kill his brother is not something that a benevolent king can do, and Liu Bei is just this kind of person, knowing that the other party will be hostile to him if he goes back. But when it comes to benevolence, righteousness, filial piety, he will still choose to break the shackles of the other party without hesitation. Alas, that's it. I hope you estimate it well. I hope Kongming is really the most quintessential figure of the Zhuge family. Mizhu barely dispelled the thoughts in his heart, and said a little decadently, I know you are for the great cause of Xuan de Gong, but there are some things that cannot be forced. Chen Shi also sighed and said, when he saw Zhuge Liang walking down alone, he understood why they were obviously relatives, but Sima Lang and Sima Yi were unwilling to show up in front of him. Chapter 3 17 Different ways do not conspire with each other. Different ways don't conspire with each other. Chen Shi took Zhuge Liang with a bitter smile on his face. Some people are because of responsibility, some people are because of intrigue, and some people are because of ideals. No wonder the ancients said, it is difficult to find a confidant. Zhuge Liang felt something in his heart but did not take over the words, so he calmly followed Chen Shi into the carriage. Zhuge Jin, who was sitting on the second floor, watched the scene silently, put down the wine glass in his hand. He knew that part of Chen Shi's words were to him. Watching the carriage slowly leave, Zhuge Jin raised a glass to the carriage from a distance. Kongming, I hope you can succeed. What you choose is not your freedom alone. I am not only responsible for me, I hope the Zhuge family will rely on you in the future. Zhuge Jin put down the wine glass heavily, and his eyes, which were originally some confused, became firm again, and the freedom was handed over to his younger brother, and the responsibility was borne by him. Have you seen Sima Zhongda? Chen Shi swept away his depression after getting into the carriage. Thinking of Sima Yi, who was separated by the wall from Zhuge Liang, he still spoke. He was curious about whether the two old enemies who lived next door had contacted, and if so, who would have the upper hand. Sima Zhongda? Zhuge Liang still remembers it. Except for Pang Tong, Sima Yi was the first peer to make him feel so much pressure. Well, it's the boy who is 2 years older than you and lives next door to you. Chen Shi described, a little disappointed. Isn't it a bit unusual for the Prime Minister and the Taiwei to collide with each other without a little super friendship? Oh, it's that guy, he's amazing. Zhuge Liang commented indifferently. It felt like he was saying, oh, you're talking about that passerby. Hey, have you been in contact with him? Chen Shi was instantly excited. The little Prime Minister and the little Taiwei collided, looking at Zhuge Liang's indifferent expression. Something must have happened, otherwise there would be no very powerful evaluation. He made trouble the day before yesterday. I wasn't in a good mood, so I went to trouble him. But he couldn't afford to lose. Zhuge Liang squinted out of the corner of his eye and said, Detail. Chen Shi's spirit came up. In the first game of Go, he was careless and lost, and in the second game, he said that he went all out and lost again, and then he violently threatened me with his mental talent, and as a result, my spiritual talent was cut off, and I scared him with mental capacity, and then played another game. A little rushed, but he still lost. Zhuge Liang said with an indifferent expression, but with a hint of arrogance. Chen Shi supported his forehead with his hand. Everything was over. Sima Yi actually couldn't afford to play, lost the spiritual talent of the liar, cut Zhuge Liang, and cut off the spiritual talent of everyone in Fenggao City except Chen Shi. Sima Yi, who was known as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, also couldn't afford to lose. It should be said that he was still too young, right? On the other side, Miju was already crazy, and the little kid in front of him actually had a spiritual talent. Isn't that clearly saying that in addition to life experience and political experience, his intelligence is not as good as the child in front of him? Then the next moment, Miju felt angina as if he had been chopped up, and a child who was almost the same as him lost playing Go and directly opened his spiritual talent. And this child actually left. Hey, what's wrong with you, Zizhong? Chen Shi looked at Miju, who was covering his heart and twitching vigorously, and slapped in a panic. I feel sorry for me. After holding back for a long time, Miju held back this sentence. This is more demonic than Fa Xiaoji, isn't it? It's more demonic than you. Why let them run away? I'm going back to catch Zhuge Ziyu too. Miju no longer cared about his elegant appearance, nor did he take into account that Zhuge Liang was still around. Directly went crazy. Okay. The two who left were my distant relatives, but unfortunately the reasons for their departure were different. There is no choice, so don't go crazy. Chen Shi said helplessly. He had already looked away. Sima Yi and Sima Lang did not go to his house as relatives, which means a lot of things. The way is different. After appeasing Miju twice, Chen Shi put his mind on Zhuge Liang again. Chen Shi believed that Zhuge Liang was not joking. That is, the real Sima Yi was inked in 3 battles. Sure enough, the combat effectiveness of this Prime Minister when he meets the Grand Marshal is always a bit abnormal. After all, as long as it is a spiritual talent, as long as it is opened, it will increase the intensity of thinking. Even if it is Lu Su's spiritual talent that has nothing to do with the brain, it will improve thinking to a considerable extent. Then in Kongming's opinion, what are the drawbacks of Zhongda's spiritual talent? Chen Shi said with a smile. Enemy and us are indistinguishable. Zhuge Liang didn't say a word. All that was left was to look at Chen Shi calmly, and everything was left to Chen Shi to judge. Amazing, spiritual talent, age, analytical ability, worthy of Zhuge Kongming. The core thing is kept in his own hands, and the other parts are displayed to get the greatest recognition. Chen Shi looked at Zhuge Liang a little shocked. This should not be the performance of a 12-year-old boy at all. It is worthy of being recorded as Zhuge Liang, who is wise and close to a demon. What about the evidence? Chen Shi asked curiously. Sima Boda and my brother have both been erased from their spiritual talents, and Sima Zhongda has no way to control the target. Zhuge Liang said calmly. Okay, thank you. A trace of clarity appeared on Chen Shi's face. Since they did not distinguish between enemy and me, then they took advantage of Mount Tai, and his Chen Zichuan's talent could not be erased. On the other side, Shi Jizai had no idea that he had been robbed, and he was still concentrating on dealing with Liu, so that Liu could feel that he really wanted to give Liu Bei a woman. Brother Jitsai, this matter is settled. Li Yulang said with a smile. It's easy to say, I'll turn back to Yangju on this matter. Oh, no, I'll write to my lord to inform my lord of this matter now, and I will definitely save Duke Xuanda from danger, Brother Wanru, don't worry. Shi Jitsai said with a look of ecstasy. Xu Chu and Jian Wei outside Liu Bei's main hall were staring at each other. If it weren't for the two of them being guards who obeyed orders, they would have started fighting long ago. But even if the two kept the order and did not fight, they were already furious until now, and they wanted to grab the guy on the opposite side and beat him up. Evil comes, let's go. According to his estimate, he would be able to analyze Zhuge Liang's spiritual talent in another day or two, so he planned to return to the post station and not come out, concentrate on analyzing Zhuge Liang's talent, and leave the wedding and intelligence matters to Chen Kun. Military Division. Wait a minute. Jian Wei walked up to Xu Chu. Your name is Xu Chu, right? You dared to shout at me so much before, and you have the courage to come outside the city. I will let you understand what power is. Draw a line. I'll continue. Xu Chue raised his head and glared at Jian Wei with an arrogant face and said, You wait. You will receive the battle letter at night. Jian Wei turned his double halberd behind him, turned his head and left. He was ready to beat this dead fat man tomorrow with swelling all over his body. Chapter 318 When Wisdom Incarnates Meets 1,000 Years of Wisdom. Shi Jitsai hugged his fists and smiled at Liu, and Liu didn't care about this kind of thing. As long as Xu Chu was still in Mount Tai, there would be no accident, and it would definitely be a group of onlookers at that time. Not to mention that you are Jian Wei. You or even Liu Biyu can't stand such a group of people. As long as you dare to kill someone, Jian Wei will never be able to go back. After watching Shi Jitsai leave, Liu turned his gaze to Xu Chu. Can you beat him? As far as the information from Yangju was concerned, that guy fought hand-to-hand, and Liu Biyu did not take advantage of it. Changsha, and rest assured, the other party is also a powerful person, and I am not afraid of anyone compared to my Xu Zhongkang. Xu Chu waved his fist and said, At that time, I must beat him all over his body. Oh, then it's up to you, just don't kill it, it's nothing to fight half dead, anyway, you will recover soon. Do you need me to send General Zhong and General Hua to press you when the time comes? Liu thought about Zhong Fei's description of Xu Chu's strength before, and Liu Biyu's description of Zhong Fei's strength, and felt that Xu Chu was still quite reliable. No, just let General Zhong protect the Lord when the time comes. Xu Chu laughed and said, I will definitely make him understand what strength is. On the other side, Shi Jitsai was also asking Jian Wei similar questions, and the result was the same result, and Jian Wei promised that he would definitely be able to beat the other party as a sandbag. Even if that fat man has the strength to fight, it will definitely not be enough for me to fight. Jian Wei said confidently. He has absolute confidence in the strength of Jian Wei. Oh, just don't kill him. Shi Jitsai said nonchalantly. He already understood that the opposite side was the degree of internal qi leaving the body. For people of that level of trauma, as long as they still have breath, they can eat well. It won't be a big problem. Naturally, when he returned to the post station, Xie Jitsai helped Jian Wei write a war book, and he specially wrote some ancient seal characters. Basically, Xie Jitsai needed to check what could be written, and asked Jian Wei to send it after writing. Xu Chu took the war book and looked at the text on it and didn't know a word, which was completely ridiculing Xu Chu for his low IQ and little reading. I don't even know the words. Li Changsha, help me see what's going on with this war book. Xu Chu scratched the back of his head and said with a blush. Okay. Li Yu, who was about to go home, was stopped by Xu Chu and was a little puzzled, but when he heard what Xu Chu said, he understood what was going on. Don't you know? I remember that your family had a private school. Why didn't you study hard when you were young? After saying that, Li Yu opened the battle book, and then almost spurted out a mouthful of blood. This is showing off that in addition to force, he actually reads a lot of books, right? Tomorrow morning. 5 miles outside the east gate of the city, it was a head-to-head battle. If you are afraid of losing, you can bring your friends with you. Jian Wei Bai, I know you definitely don't know what I wrote. Alas, looking at your body shape, I know that your brain is empty, and I won't hit you. Li Yu relied on even guessing that he translated it, but it meant that there was no problem. Xu Chu's face was almost as dark as the bottom of the pot, and he took the bamboo slip and kneaded it directly into powder. I must beat him up tomorrow until he can't take care of himself. Oh, Zhongkang, work hard. Just give you a holiday to relax. Li Yu sighed, patted Xu Chu on the back and said. After Chen she took Zhuge Liang to visit all the civil and military officials of Mount Tai. The sky had turned dark. I've seen the master. Butler Chen opened the door and saw Chen Shi, bowed and said. No one comes, this one will live in our house from now on. Well, Just treat him as a cousin. Chen Shi didn't want to take advantage of Zhuge Liang. The young master was no different from the young master like himself who had no descendants. Chen Changwen, the head of the Chen family in Yingchuan, is visiting. When he said this, Butler Chen was obviously a little excited. Oh, just give me a greeting, and when the time comes, I will have to ask him about something. Chen Shi nodded and said, if Chen Kun doesn't come, then he will clearly put the contradiction between the two best people of the Chen family on the table. Although the two don't have much contradiction in substance, it's just a different kind of trouble. Chen Shi wants to be free, Chen Kun wants power, that's all. However, Chen Shi, who has shown his own ability, will have a lot of fun if he does not see the head of the Chen family appear at the wedding. Do you live in the outer courtyard or the inner courtyard? Chen Shi turned his head to Zhuge Liang and asked. What's the difference? Zhuge Liang asked puzzled. There are no women in the outer courtyard except for the wife of the old housekeeper Chen, and there are no men in the inner courtyard except me. Chen Shi said something that left Zhuge Liang speechless. Feel free. Zhuge Liang's face flushed and flashed. Oh, then live in the inner courtyard, and give you a *** courtyard. Chen Shi said casually, turned his head to Butler Chen and said, give Kong Ming 10 maids, who should eat, wear, live, and have the necessary book collection, which can be ordered to be borrowed from Cai Zhaoji. Turning around, Chen Shi whispered to Zhuge Liang, you can only see what you can't eat, at least you will never allow it in the past 2 years. In an instant, Zhuge Liang, who was originally indifferent, was embarrassed. Ha ha ha, just kidding, there are a lot of maids in my family, and someone will send some from time to time, and now they can form a class. Chen Shi said helplessly. Every time the foreign general returned victorious, he would send Chen Shi a few maids, plus the maids given by Liu Bei. He now finally understood why there were often dozens of concubines in the family of an ancient official, and at this pace, even if there were more than 100 next year, he didn't think there was a problem. As for using these maids as toys, Chen Shi still couldn't do much. And the sense of right and wrong and values forged for decades had not been destroyed. Because of this, Chen Shi told a maid in his family very early that except for the maid he liked, if the others met a good friend and were willing to marry, Chen Shi could give a dowry. But so far, it seems that no one is willing to marry. Should I say that Chen Shi doesn't have many things in the family? These maids are very leisurely at work. Chen Lan and Fan Jian don't bother them. There is a lot of rest time every day. Chen Shi is embarrassed to give away all these women, so he has to stay at home and send some books for Chen Lan or Fan Jian to have time to teach them. Well, they are almost literate, and you can ask them to transcribe or write something if you need to. In addition to the books from Cai Zhaoji, you can also take a look at some of the messy books I have collected and sorted out. Chen Shi smiled and said. Zhuge Liang had no idea what the messy book Chen Shi was talking about, but when he got the book at night, he was almost frightened. The way he wrote nonsense, and the crazy thoughts. These books were written by Chen Shi? For the first time, Zhuge Liang felt that a person's wisdom could be so strange. The previous book told you that diligence can make up for clumsiness. The latter book can tell you that talent is enough to crush your sweat 99 times. This book can talk about the benefits of unification, and the next book can tell you the advantages of 100 flowers blooming. All in all, after Zhuge Liang read a few books, he felt that he could no longer read like this, and if he looked at it again, he would definitely be brought by Chen Shi abnormally. Chapter 319 The Incident. Zhuge Liang came to Chen Shi with a few books in his arms after breakfast in the morning, and saw Chen Shi scooping porridge with a spoon in a daze. Oh, Kongming, let's eat together. Chen Shi asked the maid on the side to serve Zhuge Liang a bowl. Basically the meal in this family is the same. You wrote this book? Zhuge Liang asked without eating, directly through the handwritten books on the table. Success and hard work? Talent and sweat? Chen Shi yawned and scratched his uncombed hair. Recently Fan Jian and Chen Lan no longer live in the Chen family at night, saying that in fact, they should not appear in the Chen family during the day. The two sides should live separately and wait for marriage and then pick it up. In short, when no one cares, Chen Shi's arrangement of the long hair on that end is arbitrary. As for a certain maid who should wash Chen Shi, she is completely helpless for Chen Shi. There is no way, although the master is very talkative, but what he says is what he says. If he doesn't let you comb his hair, you won't let you comb it even if you are coquettish. I wrote it. Chen Shi didn't say any lies. This was really written by him when he was bored with his previous knowledge. Can you tell me if these theories are correct? The corners of Zhuge Liang's eyes twitched a little, and there are really people who have this strange way of thinking. It's all right. Chen Shi was drinking porridge while wilting and replying to Zhuge Liang. He hadn't woken up yet, but he had been woken up at this time before, and then Fan Jian would tie his hair for the confused Chen Shi, and now he is really not used to it without his fiancée. The problem is that the content of this book is all conflicting. Zhuge Liang was obviously a little crazy. What time is it now? Not to mention going to work. At least he should have woken up, but Chen Shi is obviously confused so far. Who is that, right? Chen Yu went to Jenna's room to bring the contradiction and unity. Chen Shi didn't bother to say anything now, and directly asked a maid next to him to get another book. What is that? Zhuge Liang asked curiously. A book that you will understand after reading it. Chen Shi said casually, then picked up the bowl and put the porridge into his mouth and started to pick it up. Logically speaking, at this time, Fan Jian or Chen Lan should come. That's it. Chen Shi handed the book the other party brought to Zhuge Liang. Although there are many things that have been altered, and there are many contradictions, but this book itself is called Contradiction and Unity, and it is natural that there are some unspeakable places that can only be understood. After Chen Shi handed the book to Zhuge Liang, he began to tie his hair helplessly. It is estimated that it is impossible for his wife to enter the door today, and even after today, before getting married, so naturally no one will comb his hair, so he can only do it himself. Master, I'll do it. Chen Yu, who was originally standing aside waiting for orders, saw Chen Shi tying his hair. So he spoke. Okay, I've been in trouble lately. Chen Shi directly gave up his plan to do it himself. This kind of thing is not what he is good at. The book was not thick, and Zhuge Liang finished reading Chen Yu's Kung Fu for Chen Shi's hair. What questions do you have? No problem, right and wrong are just suitable for people. Zhuge Liang looked obviously a little entangled, but he didn't ask Chen Shi a question. Did you write this book too? How did I learn these things? Well, I wrote it. However, many of them have some problems. As for how to learn, generally speaking, you will have this feeling after a long time. But no one summed it up, so I summed them up. Chen Shi said indifferently, even if it is written wrong, it is nothing, and future generations will naturally correct it. That's right. Zhuge Liang was a little unsure. After all, these opposing things can be said to be correct, and the book he brought for Chen Shixin obviously had a lot of mistakes and omissions. But he vaguely felt that it contained the correct theory, and because of this, Zhuge Liang didn't know who was right and who was wrong. You can just read those books. Just use them as entertainment. Chen Shi has a recreational attitude towards the theories he has messed with. However, since the cautious Zhuge Liang found the correct concept in it, it was not possible to let him treat knowledge with a recreational attitude. Do you plan to go to the government office with me, or to the library to read books? Chen Shi asked casually. Go and get in touch with how to deal with government affairs. Zhuge Liang thought about it or put down the book, and the parts he didn't understand could be studied slowly. It is better to start accumulating experience early in dealing with this kind of thing in government affairs. When Chen Shi took Fa Zheng to the government office, Jian Wei had already left with the halberd, and Xu Chu had already carried his big knife. They all planned to give each other a ruthless and good abuse of the other side when the time comes. When Chen Shi really took Zhuge Liang to the government affairs hall, it was noon for another hour at most, which made Zhuge Liang simply crazy. You must know that in Zhuge Liang's heart, seize the time to handle government affairs well, maintain peace, be conscientious every day, sleep later than a dog, get up earlier than a chicken. This is a good official who is diligent and loves the people, like Chen Shi is leisurely. Eat and drink enough in the morning, go shopping for a while, and then go to deal with government affairs almost noon. Are you really an official? Chen Shi looked at Zhuge Liang with a black face and laughed wildly. Zhuge Liang's biggest problem was that he was too conscientious in Chen Shi's opinion, saying that he was tired to death. So the core of Chen Shi's transformation of Zhuge Liang was to give up your conscientious way of working and enjoy life leisurely. Early. When Chen Shi entered the door, everything that should have come came. This point was to eat something to replenish some nutrition, and then officially began to deal with today's government affairs. Anyway, it is difficult to learn. It is easy to learn badly. These people have been brought bad by Chen Shi. Zichuan. Yes, I came quite early today. Fa Zheng yawned with his fluffy hair and said, This is Kong Ming, why don't you let him learn from me? Chen Shi knew what kind of psychology this guy was when he saw Fa Zheng, who had been tossed by a group of people for so long, and finally had a trumpet, and it was like grabbing it to practice his hands, so that he could feel the pleasure of abuse. Turn off your mind. You haven't even become a teacher yourself. Chen Shi said casually, Kong Ming sits here, just take whatever you want. It's been quite interesting recently. Chen Yuanlong gave us news that Dao Gongzu received Cao Mengda's father, and the two had a good time. Jioshu glanced at Zhuge Liang. Compared with Fa Zheng's out-of-the-box personality that people couldn't help but want to cut, Zhuge Liang was too calm. What did you say? Chen Shi was stunned directly. It's nothing, that is, Dao Gongzu doesn't seem to want to mess around in the Shu Meng, and wants to find a backer again. Liu Yi said nonchalantly. What is the name of the Zuzhu general who escorted Cao Zhugao away? Chen Shi asked. Fa Zheng was stunned, and then this guy remembered Chen Deng's unusual behavior, and said with a twitch in the corners of his eyes, shouldn't you mean that there are forces within Zuzhu that want to attack Dao Qian? Zhong Kai, the Yellow Turban General. We don't have time to dabble in the matter. Jioshu also frowned and said, but this can also be regarded as giving us a chance. Cao Mengda is not weak, although Dao Gongzu has the elite of Danyang, but after all, he is old and weak, and he is invincible without anyone holding back. When he said this, the strategists present all showed a touch of thought, that is to say, a collision with Cao Cao was inevitable, but everyone present except Zhuge Liang had absolute confidence, because Liu Bei could afford it. Cao Cao would definitely not be able to support Liu Bei, and the strategic reserves that Chen Shi had been making were not a joke. Get ready, the results will come out in 20 days at most. Zuzhu is mainly too far from Yangzhou, and Cao Cao is firm and clear, otherwise Sichuan's wedding will be troublesome again. Jioshu said with a smile. Chen Shi smiled bitterly, holding the elite of Danyang, Dao Qian, who expanded the territory and opened up the territory back then, was not so easy to defeat in the eyes of everyone. But Cao Bao's performance taught everyone a lesson. What is the incompetence of a general to exhaust thousands of troops? In the backyard of the post station, Shi Jizai spurted out a mouthful of blood and fell directly on the bed. Zhuge Kongming's talent. Chapter 3:20 Centrifuge. At the same time, Yangzhou Chen Liu. Cao Gong, although when Li is at fault first, he is a famous scholar in the world after all, and it can be regarded as considering the great cause of the Han dynasty. The starting point is good after all, and please let Cao Gong let the other party go for the time being. Chen Gong rushed over as soon as he learned that Cao Cao was going to kill Bian Rang, hoping that Cao Cao would give up this idea. Gong Tai, don't discuss this matter anymore. How can you not kill if you dare to collude with foreign ministers to seize my Yangzhou? Cao Cao glared at Chen Gong and said with a gloomy face. Cao Gong, when Li was just confused for a while, and he was not plotting to seize Yangzhou. Chen Gong loudly advised, I just want to unite the power of several princes to rescue the Son of Heaven. Rescue the Son of Heaven? This kind of thing has been done by us, the governors and governors, who are rescuing the Son of Heaven. He is colluding with Yuan Shao. Cao Cao said angrily, probably because he felt that he was a little too much for Chen Gong's tone, so he sighed and comforted. Now that the world is in chaos, our strength does not have an advantage, and only by stabilizing ourselves can we truly protect the Son of Heaven. Chen Gong was stunned. For the first time he felt that Cao Cao had become strange. He lowered his head and did not speak, not knowing what was going on in his brain. Gong Tai, did something go wrong in the middle of that incident before? Cao Cao didn't seem to want to mention that matter anymore, so he changed the topic. Liu Biyu's courage is hard to match. Chen Gong said silently. That's right, Liu Biyu is indeed very brave, not matched by ordinary generals. But fortunately, I have a fierce general like Evil Lai under my command. Cao Cao did not show disappointment and instead praised his subordinates. Chen Gong left Cao Cao in despair. He didn't understand why Cao Cao became so small-bellied. What about Cao Mengda, who was majestic and domineering before? Chen Gong couldn't help but think of the straightforward Liu Biyu, and when he remembered that meeting, a wisp of inexplicable thoughts grew. In addition to being straight, Lu Fengxian was a little stunned, and it was not as rumored before. Unfortunately, Lu Fengxian's hometown in Bingju was occupied by Yuan Benchu. Displaced, otherwise it would be a good place to belong. Chen Gong couldn't help but think. Chen Gong didn't know why, since he saw Liu Biyu, he had an appreciation for Liu Biyu. You must know that he was ready to kill Liu Biyu before, and then accepted the group of Liu Biyu for Cao Cao. But after seeing Liu Biyu, Chen Gong silently gave up his plan and instead drank and chatted with Liu Biyu. Alas, Fengxian and I have a sense of like-mindedness at first sight. It's a pity. It's a pity. Chen Gong thought silently, and when he thought about Cao Cao, the resentment in his heart was even stronger. Cao Mengda, if you do something that I can't get used to recently, I will definitely give you a ruthless one. The more Chen Gong thought about it, the more angry he became, and he was extremely dissatisfied with Cao Cao's act of killing Han ministers without authorization. Chen Gong went home and thought about Liu Biyu, who seemed to be wandering recently, and didn't know what kind of mind he had, so he wrote a letter and ordered someone to give it to Liu Biyu, asking him to stay in Hanoi first. Am I planning for Cao Mengda? Chen Gong was obviously a little confused, and after a long time, Chen Gong became firm again. Right. I am planning for Cao Mengda. Liu Biyu's troops are stationed in Hanoi and spying on Bingju. In this way, Yuan Benchu had to shift part of his focus from Yuzhou to the place where Bingju was on the verge of Hanoi to prevent Liu Biyu from breaking out, which was helpful to Cao Mengda's great cause. Chen Gong was doing bad things while comforting himself, but Cao Cao approved the plan to drive away tigers and wolves handed over less than an hour after seeing Chen Gong go back without thinking, and he was completely relieved that Chen Gong was only angry for a while, and he would not abolish the public for personal reasons, but he was still his right-hand man. Looking at the transfer order in his hand, Chen Gong was obviously a little dazed. Is he doing the right thing? Standing near Chen Liu's granary, Chen Gong hesitated for a long time. And at this moment, when he saw Bien Rang's wife screaming and being dragged away by Cao Cao's soldiers, she couldn't help but flash a murderous intent in her eyes. I'm just on guard against it. Cao Mengde, don't let me down. Chen Gong was ruthless in his heart, handed the transfer order to Hu Cao, and then directly ordered someone to disperse the soldiers, and then rescued Bien Rang's wife. Go back and tell Cao Gong that Bien Rang's wife, children, and mother, I, Chen Gong, have rescued him, the wise lord, do not harm people's relatives, and do not cut off people's sacrifices. Chen Gong left this sentence to the other party when he asked the family to leave. Soon what happened on the street reached Cao Cao. Zunyu was also next to him. After hearing about this, Zunyu sighed, Lord, what the public platform said is reasonable. The wise lord should not harm people's relatives, do not cut off people's sacrifices. Today the lord is like this. Will people in the world be like this in the future? Cao Cao sighed, in that case, then this matter is like this. Tell Chen Gong Tai, I don't know anything, don't let people appear in front of me. Zunyu didn't know his sentence don't harm people's relatives, don't cut off people's sacrifices. Today's lord is like this? In the future, the people of the world will not be like this, so that soon after, he had no way to persuade Cao Mengde in anger. The lord is benevolent. Zunyu said gently, he was very open about the matter of Bien Rang, he could kill or not kill. Compared with Yuan Shao's ineffective convulsions, Zunyu was more optimistic about Cao Mengde assisting the Han dynasty. Chen Gong received Cao Cao's order in a much better mood, although Bien Rang still could not escape death, but Bien Rang's family escaped the disaster. After all, Cao Cao is also a human being. It is normal to make mistakes for a while, as long as you can listen to others' persuasion. It is the capital of the wise lord. Thinking of this, Chen Gong is a little guilty for his previous half-capital enemy's actions, but thinking about being able to contain Yuan Shao, he did not deliberately deal with it. After all, he still has some doubts. If the last time it hurt the vitality, this time it hurt the foundation, and even at the moment when he spat out blood, Shi Jizai vaguely understood that his time was running out, and it was a question of whether he could even survive this time. Shi Jizai, who fell on the bed, did not faint like last time, but insisted on not letting himself pass out, and pushed the porcelain pillow off the bed with difficulty, making a huge movement. Click. Hearing the huge movement in Shi Jizai's room, the guards guarding the door instantly rushed in. Seeing that Shi Jizai's face was pale, his body was like dry wood, and his spirits seemed to be leaving suddenly, and he was immediately surprised. Find a doctor. Call. Long. When? Shi Jizai said with difficulty. Chen Kun learned that Shi Jizai vomited blood again and rushed directly towards the backyard. Jizai. Back to Chen Liu. Will believe. To give. The main. Shi Jizai saw Chen Kun, a touch of luster flashed in his cloudy eyes, and he raised his finger to the white paper on the bookshelf with difficulty and said, and then his eyes darkened, and his raised right hand fell directly on the bed. Jizai. Chen Kun was shocked and pounced directly on Shi Jizai. Get out of the way, if you pounce on him, he will die. An old man with crane hair and a childlike face directly grabbed Chen Kun's shoulders and threw Chen Kun aside, and several needles were thrown toward Shi Jizai in the meantime. Chapter 321 Hua Tuo. Chen Kun was thrown aside, and when he turned around, he saw the silver needle stuck in Shi Jizai's head for the first time, and collapsed directly. Take this assassin down for me. Chen Kun was already angry, and Shi Jizai was killed in front of him, so he didn't have to explain it to Cao Cao. Get out of the way. If you delay another cup of tea, the immortals will come to the world, and he will be dead. Don't look at Chen Kun as a young and strong handsome guy in his 20s, but he is not at all an opponent of such a little old man, and the moment he pounced, he was kicked out by the little old man. That way sure. Where's my medicine box? Hua Tuo asked outside the door, saying that as soon as he entered the post station, someone shouted to call the doctor, and Hua Tuo, who was rich in medical ethics, turned in directly, and as a result, when he entered the door, he saw a guy who was basically dead, almost completely wiped out, only retained a breath, and barely supported himself to die. What evil the other party has done is the other party's business, and saving people is his own business. So Hua Tuo immediately skimmed out the 3 silver needles. If the spirit continues to flow, then there is no need to live, and it will be useless to save it. Old man, stop for a moment. Liu Yang ran over with a medicine box on his back like a medicine boy. Yo, isn't this a long article? Long time no see, long time no see. I'm going. Stop quickly, he is saving people, mister. Hua is here, the life of the person on your bed is saved. Stop the long article. When Liu Yang entered the door, he saw Chen Kun ordering people to surround Hua Tuo, and seeing that the posture seemed to be about to be ruthless to Hua Tuo, he greeted Chen Kun loudly and then squeezed inside. On the way to lead Hua Tuo from Yongju, Liu Yang had already seen the magic of this master, and he was determined not to have an accident. Wei Shuo. Chen Kun looked at Liu Yang a little stunned, and thought for a long time before remembering that this guy was Liu Yang. You said he was a doctor. The silver needle is stuck in the heavenly spirit cover, and you tell him that he is a doctor, and he is killing people. I've never seen a doctor as powerful as him. Liu Yang first handed the medicine box to Hua Tuo. This is the doctor I spent a lot of effort to invite. You don't know how high this level is. Tiske, don't worry, as long as he makes a move, the one on your bed can't die. Rest assured, step back, go away. Although Chen Kun was a little hesitant, he still ordered the guards to retreat. Wei Shuo. You are sure he can do it? Jitsai has vomited blood twice recently, and this time, even if I don't understand medical skills, I can see that Jitsai's deadline is approaching. Don't worry. Feel relieved. Isn't this not dead yet? Liu Yang now has absolute confidence in Hua Tuo. When he was in Yangju, he picked up a dead man and saved him, not to mention that this is still dead. That's fake death. Hua Tuo turned his head and said, Don't listen to him. In the eyes of that old man, it is estimated that there is no one who can't save him. When I was in Yangju, I took him to a restaurant for dinner, but while eating, a beggar pulled his father to prepare to bury him, and he didn't breathe. There is no heartbeat, and it is estimated that my body is about to get cold. He saved them all. Liu Yang was amazed, saying that he really convinced Hua Tuo after that time. That's because he's not dead, I've said it many times. Hua Tuo glanced at Liu Yang and explained to Chen Kun quickly in between needles, there is a heartbeat and pulse, but it is not obvious. Look, masters like to pretend to be like ordinary people. Liu Yang shrugged his shoulders and said, The situation has stabilized, give me paper and pen. Hua Tuo pulled away the needles, then turned his head to Liu Yang and said, Doctor, how is Jitsai? Chen Kun looked at Shi Jitsai, who was flattened by Hua Tuo, although he was not a doctor, but he could also see that Shi Jitsai's face at this time was much better than before. I can only say that I can't die. I was injured twice. Once I hurt my vitality, and I was hurt again before I could recover. This time I hurt the foundation, but my life was saved. Hua Tuo explained while writing the prescription. When will Jitsai wake up? Chen Kun breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he didn't die, it would be easy to say. It's only a matter of time before he wakes up. He's very persistent. Probably some obsession hasn't been completed. So he just said it wrong. If you pounce on it directly, he will only stop breathing or his heart will stop beating, nothing else. Hua Tuo's words were simply unreasonable in Chen Kun's opinion. Look, this uncle's concept of life and death is completely different from ours. Maybe if his head falls, people can pick it up. Liu Yang laughed. But this one in your bed is miserable enough. The old man used medicine to cure his illness, but I didn't expect him to say such a thing this time. Thank you, old sir. Chen Kun breathed a long sigh of relief. It would be better if he could wake up. He had a look that was about to die before, but now he is really lucky not to die. I'm not sure when he will wake up, so take care of yourself. Saying that, Hua Tuo handed the prescription to Chen Kun. If you are lucky, you can wake up in a month, and if you are unlucky, you will wake up. Hua Tuo didn't seem to have any taboos at all, and Chen Kun's face turned black directly to the bottom of the pot when he heard this ups and downs. It felt like stepping on heaven with his front feet, and then he was kicked into hell. Give me money. Seeing Hua Tuo standing beside Chen Kun without speaking, and Chen Kun also had an unmoved expression, Liu Yang sighed and said, Ha! Chen Kun was stunned. Go, take 100 gold to Dr. Hua as a reward. Hua Tuo took the money, didn't say too much, hung it directly on Liu Yang, and then turned around and left, and explained before leaving, if you wake up or your condition worsens, come to me, I will be next door. Ahem, long text, don't mind, this is what he is, who made you rich. He doesn't charge money for medical treatment for the poor. It's okay to stick upside down. People like us are regarded as robbing the rich and helping the poor. Liu Yang was afraid that Chen Kun would be upset for a while and went to trouble Hua Tuo, so he explained. What's not worth spending 100 gold to save Jitsai? Chen Kun smiled and said, people with the ability to make rules have always been like this. It's good if you can understand. If you have something to do, you can go to him. I just returned to Mount Tai today, and I still need to report to Sichuan, saying that Sichuan really belongs to your Yingchuan Chen family. Liu Yang saw that Chen Kun did not take the medical expenses to heart, so he gossiped. Well, it's our Chen family. Chen Kun didn't say anything else, just nodded and said, Oh, I'll leave first. The one on your bed is sick. Go to Dr. Hua. In addition to the higher price, the medical skills can be guaranteed. By the way, don't think about using guards to fix him. He's a special person specially invited by our Taishan. Liu Yang gave Chen Kun a couple of words, and as soon as he bowed his hands, he was ready to leave. Chen Kun watched Liu Yang leave and sighed. Liu Yang, who he didn't look at much before, has now become a celebrity in the world, famous in the world, and Mount Tai seems to be able to find his place. After thinking about it, Chen Kun felt that he should buy a few maids to take care of Shiji. After all, the guards are clumsy, and now it is so troublesome to change a bedding, and a handmaid with a passable appearance is only 40,000 or 50,000 yuan, buy a few to save worry. Do it if you want to. Chen Kun stepped out of the door and felt as if he had forgotten something, stopped to think about it, and didn't think of anything, but he didn't know that because of Huatuo, Liu Yang interrupted before and after, and Chen Kun was in a state of mental tension at that time, panicked, frenzied, and overjoyed. A series of things directly made Chen Kun throw Shi Jitsai's last words behind his head. Chapter 322. Let me lead the troops? What an idea!